Hello, everyone. Hello, hello, hello. Happy Wednesday. Yes, Wednesday. It is Wednesday, May 6th, and I am super excited to be back with you guys today. Thank you so much for coming and spending some time with me. I know that you could literally be 100 different places, but you've chosen to spend some time with me, and I greatly appreciate that. If you wouldn't do me a favor, but if you could please hit those three dots in the upper right hand of your phone screen. And when you hit those, you should see the space and it should say subscribed or unsubscribe. You want to be subscribed. You want to hit the like button. You want to do the things. Just, it's a system. Or if you're just used to this by now, just double tap your phone screen. And if you are on X, please make sure to retweet this. Give it a heart, comment. I would love to get some more interaction going over there. And my engagement, sorry, I was walking really, really, really fast. I can't even say I was running. I needed ice. And I was like, I'm not going to start the show without ice. So, with that being said, I've really enjoyed throwing things over to X, but it has interfered with my YouTube algorithm. Pardon me. And the YouTube is the whole point of this. So if we could just make sure to like this video, make sure to share it, tweet it out, that would be tremendous. That would be everything. So with that being said, I did want to start off. I was hoping that I would be a little bit more put together by the time I did this, but let me excuse me. Let me go ahead and do something that has been on my mind and I didn't want to forget about. So I have been doing my Give, Send, Go for my surgery expenses. And I have received so many generous YouTube donations from people that I know I said it on screen, but I just want to make sure that there is verbal thanks to be given that can be watched again and again. And so there's no question who gave. And if I did miss your name and you gave on YouTube, please let me know. I wouldn't want to do that. White Buffalo. White Buffalo is a member of mine, and he is like my hype man. And he's one of the regulars. And I'm so glad you are not in jail because of the meth head neighbor. Thank you. Rose with Thorns. She is a regular member now as well. And she just is lovely to have every day in the chat. So thank you, Rose. Prince of Wales, Zach. Thank you, Zach, for the generous dollars. Josh Hutchins. Thank you so much, Josh, for everything that you do for this channel. I should mention that Zach is a mod, as is Josh Hutchins. There was a point during which I was just I was having a sea of blue names pop up in the college. It's a long story, but I don't mind it. I have some great people that are showing up every day to my chat, and that means so much to me. I had 5 gifted memberships from White Buffalo. I had $10 Venmo'd from Barb. Barb, if you're out there, you're an OG. Thank you. I that's all it said is Barb. So thanks. And it was private. Madalena Paula, I got $10. And then I got some money from Alexa, and thank you so much. You guys are just the sweetest, and um, I am I'm so over the moon, uh, impressed with the people that actually show up to watch this. I appreciate it very much. But over this weekend, I I raised quite a bit of money on the Give Send Go. And I did want to I've been working on thank you notes for that, but I did want to say a special thank you to a couple of people. There wasn't a few anonymous people, so whoever you are out there that's anonymous, thank you so much. And we aren't going to be doing this long. I'm going to get to my stuff here shortly. I'm not reading comments yet either because it'll stress me out. Um, but there's been a few anonymous givers, so whomever you are, thank you so much. Um, maybe not. You are like you are everything. You know what you've given, and I am so extremely grateful. So thank you for not only being a mod, um, my guide in this, but a genuine friend. And I love your crazy ass. Um, Bay Harbor Beauty, not Bar Harbor. It's Bay Harbor. Thank you so much for supporting me through this. Namal, I don't know who you are, but I love the name Namal. And B, Jiven, Jesse Ivan, my sorority sister. I have my AO Pi sign behind me. Hopefully you guys can see it. Gail Lewis, I used to work at Farm Bureau with. Uh, she's just an absolute delight. Andrea Weaver, I haven't checked to see if you won your race last night. Either way, thank you guys so much. Like, thank you, thank you, thank you. I am so appreciative of the donation. I just finished your thank you card. Lynette. Lynette is a dear friend of my husband, and she became a friend of mine. Thank you, Lynette. Doug Talbot and Susie. Doug's a lobbyist friend of mine. Used to work with him on Cap Square. And Anonymous, thank you so much, whoever you are. The Watchy family, friends of Frank's from college. The rest of these people are all Frank's friends. Joe Dunford, you're my dude. I look forward to seeing you in Cleveland. He's gonna be he might be in that area. That's all I should say. The Mugley family, the Edwards families, Jamie Ford, and the Adrian, Chris and Dave Adrian. Thank you guys so much. I'll do something more like elaborate later, but I I'm so appreciative. I did last thing. Um, Jamie Ford, thank you for being my husband's badminton partner in high school. um, Brian Edwards. Oh, I wrote down on here, you're friends with Hot Brandon. And Brandon will get a kick out of that. Just ask him about it. And you're friends with Nick too. Can't forget Nick. Gary Mugley. Gary, you are the one that's won the fantasy football championship 4 times. So, there's that. Frank was like, that's how you should know him. And then Joe Dunford. I know him. He's stayed at my house. But you're responsible for the husband going out too much in his earlier youth, I guess, down in Pittsburgh on the south side. Okay. That's it. Hi, crazy Brazilian. Thank you. Tomorrow's my birthday. It's my last year of my 30s. I did have the option to get this surgery done on on May 6th or May 8th. So today or Friday. And then they were like, or we could do the 13th or the 15th. And I was like, yeah, I don't think I'm going to take you up on the surgery on my birthday. No thanks. But I'm ready for it, and I'm super thankful for this birthday. I don't know how else to say it. Like, it's kind of weird if you think about it. Just gonna take it as it comes, and don't forget. I know it's still early, and I probably rushed through that really quickly because I was nervous. I saw Crazy Brazilian was on here, and she just gets me all nervous. Don't forget to double tap your screen if that's how you're watching, or hit the heart button on X, and give it a like on Facebook. Okay. So I have the closing arguments for this trial that we have been watching together. It's actually happening in downtown Columbus, and it is involving a former U.S. Marshal. He was out driving. He saw a car going I think it was actually going the opposite way of him, who allegedly had a weapon out and was going like this, like blatantly flashing it while driving erratically. And at that point, it becomes like he has to pull over the guy, right? That's his job. So he calls in on his radio that he's pursuing a guy, and it's right by the house that they had just executed a warrant on, and yada, yada, yada. They get to this guy's house, and unfortunately, there was a complete breakdown of information. Like, the cop didn't know that this family typically parked on the wrong side of the street. So that was weird. So when this guy parked his car, he parked on the wrong side of the street, and he ran inside, and the cop alleges that he brandished his weapon one more time before getting almost in the front door. And the cop was thinking, oh my God, he's going to go take these people hostage. He parked on the wrong side of the street. He had his weapon, et cetera, et cetera, et cetera. And he deploys his weapon, and the weapon is set on automatic. So there are 6 bullets, and the citizen, Casey, dies pretty quickly. The weapon that the officer said that this guy had was found underneath the guy. But in the other hand, he had Subway sandwiches and he had AirPods in his ears. And it's been a really big case here. So we're in closing arguments today. That's probably the best breakdown I can give for you guys. Let me know if you have any questions in the comments. I know there were things that I didn't cover. This is a retrial because the first trial, it was a hung jury. I think this will be a hung jury, if not acquitted. But because I know someone's going to ask me what I think. Shout out to Lacey Crisp as well for helping with this. Hi, Russ.
21 CR 5052, State of Ohio versus Mike Jason Meade. Do we need to put anything on the record prior to bringing in the jury?
No, Your Honor. Not from the defense, Your Honor.
All right, let's go get the jury.
I thank you.
I'm so thirsty. Maybe we'll try moving the show back a little bit next week. Oh, next week. Duh. All right.
36.
Pull that one. This one.
My face is very chubby. What's the holdup, Judge? Come on. Come on, Gary. Did you guys celebrate Cinco de Mayo last night?
All rise.
Look at the jury. Gary. Gary was the guy that did his homework walking in to science class,
Everyone can have a seat.
like writing on people's backs. That was Gary.
Ladies and gentlemen, what we're going to do today is I'm going to provide you with the jury instructions, and I will afford the state and defense an opportunity to make closing arguments, and then I will end up with a couple more jury instructions. My wife hates to be read to, and so I'm going to give each of you the jury instructions so you can read along with me. All right?
I hate to be sung to. Kind of the same thing. You got Taco Bell. I had a little Mexican stand that did little tacos, which was perfect because I'm not eating much. The corn tortilla upset my stomach, or maybe it was just the malls. I don't know. But
This court,
note to self.
ladies and gentlemen of the jury. 6 shots in the back. That's what this case is about. No matter how Mr. Nolbert, Mr. Collins twist and turn with the pointer, it comes back to 6 shots in the back. The state has the burden of proof, as the judge has just told you, meaning we have the duty to go forward, and we have. We brought you a total of, I think, 19 witnesses. You're going to have close to 200 items, or maybe in excess of 200 items. I haven't actually counted them all, counting the pictures individually. Back there in the jury room with you. You're going to have the door. And I submit
This cat is psychotic.
that the question in this case isn't whether the state has proven its case. We've proven the offenses. The judge just gave you the definition for the 2 offenses charged. And I submit to you that we have established, by proof beyond a reasonable doubt, all the elements of each charge. That in count 1, Mr. Meade knowingly
Oh, wait.
caused serious physical harm
Oh my God. I have this on 1.5.
that resulted in his death. Now, we've heard over and over again, because most of the
1.25.
witnesses were police officers, and they're trained and universally trained that when they fire their weapon, they fire it to stop the threat. And over again, we heard, you're not trained to commit felonious assault.
Sure.
Pointing a weapon at someone, regardless of your purpose, and the judge has told you it doesn't matter what the purpose is knowingly, and firing it at that person is knowingly causing serious physical harm to strike the person. So regardless of whether the purpose is to stop the threat, it's still felonious assault. So don't be hoodwinked by any kind of an argument that, hey, the firing of a weapon by a police officer is just to stop the threat. That's felonious assault. And when it causes death and the firing is not justified, that's murder. And understand that police officers do not have the right to fire their weapons just because there is a threat or a risk. A risk is the potential of a threat. That doesn't justify firing your weapon. And a threat has to be two things. It has to be immediate, imminent, and it has to be a threat of serious physical harm or death to the police officer or to someone else. Otherwise, firing the gun is not justified. Otherwise, it's moved from proper law enforcement to a criminal act.
Rose, I was able to use that envelope that I was asking about the other day with the stamp on it.
So what's this case really come down to? It comes down to whether the discharging of his weapon, whether Mr. Meade's firing that weapon 6 times, and we don't know whether it was in automatic mode or semi-automatic. So we don't know whether he pulled the trigger once. We don't know whether if it was in automatic and he followed the conventional training of firing in bursts. He fired it twice. It's interesting that you got 3-3 in the groupings of the shots. We don't know because he didn't tell us in his statement. His detailed statement that was to explain in minute detail, he left out whether it was on automatic or semi-automatic. But we do know he fired 6 bullets out of that weapon. And whether he did it in a full automatic mode or a semi-automatic mode doesn't change the fact that that weapon, his firing of that weapon, caused the death of Casey Goodson.
Oh, wait.
The question in the case is, was the firing of the weapon justified? And that burden isn't on the state of Ohio to establish that. That burden rests on the defense. They have the burden to prove to you by a preponderance of the evidence.
Preponderance of the
shooting
evidence.
was justified.
That's what I'm switching my new YouTube name to be.
If it's a tie, if when you evaluate everything, you determine, gee, I'm just not sure, I don't know, they lose. They haven't established it because it's by a preponderance. It's not by equal evidence. It's not by some evidence. It's by a preponderance of the evidence.
Well, this is interesting. A very interesting approach. This is
Judges just
horrible.
told you about the defense of justification. And it can be confusing because the defense involves what the particular officer knew and the facts and circumstances around that. But it is not his mindset. It's that of an objectively reasonable officer. If it was just what the officer said, then every shooting would be justified because every officer is going to tell you, well, then, I had to shoot because of this, this, and this. So you have to evaluate from the evidence that's presented what a reasonably objective officer would have concluded. So how do you decide that? You decide it by evaluating all the evidence and comparing and contrasting. There were 2 use of force experts presented. Mr. Scanlon, who was a police officer for, I believe, 33 years. And he brought forth his testimony based upon his experiences as a working police officer for 33 years. And Professor Stoughton, who was a police officer in the patrol area for about 5 years, I believe he said. Then he became an investigator, but still in a police-like role for about 5 or 6 years. But then he moved on into an academic career. And so he's He's the academic who studies policing, who evaluates policing. And they had the disagreements between them had to do with the tactics that were employed, the decisions made up until the shooting. But interestingly, their opinions are identical relative to the shooting. Both of them told you that if in fact you determine from all the evidence that Casey Goodson turned and pointed his gun at the defendant, the shooting is justified. Case over. But likewise, both of them told you that if the evidence does not support that finding, that if the evidence doesn't establish that Casey Goodson turned and pointed his weapon at the defendant, the shooting is not justified. And at that point, your verdict has to be guilty.
Where's Willa?
So taking all the complex, which we lawyers can make everything complex, no offense, but taking all the complexities in the instructions, what it boils down to from your standpoint is, has the evidence established that Casey turned and pointed his gun at the defendant? That's what the case boils down to. So,
Sorry, guys.
what evidence has been produced that that's what Casey did? That he turned and pointed? Well, you have the written statement of the defendant, and you'll have it back there. You can study it, and it goes into detail about his training and about, you know, he has good eyesight and all of these different things. And then it says, and he says on page 10 of his statement.
Oof. Was someone out a
talking
little
about
too
Mr.
late?
Goodson. But the moment
Cinco
after
de
his
Mayo?
shoulders drooped, he, Mr. Goodson, Casey, quickly turned his head and torso in my, Mr. Meade's direction to confirm my location, while he suddenly and unexpectedly started to raise his right arm back. As he did so, I saw he was still holding the gun, raising the barrel upwards in my direction. Okay. There's some evidence that he turned and
I turned my other screen on to make sure that there isn't a verdict. So I'll have
what
that
other
on.
evidence is there?
What
Well,
was I doing?
the only other evidence that exists is arguably the testimony of Dr. Desmulin, who told you, didn't tell you that it happened, told you it was possible. Because remember, we know that this door was between the defendant, Casey Goodson. And how do we know that? 3 bullet holes in the screen, an impact point at the top of the screen. Physical evidence. Something important to remember when you're evaluating the evidence in this case. Physical evidence doesn't lie. It just is. Physical evidence can't be untruthful. It just is.
Hey guys, remember to like the stream and subscribe. Thank you. Let me write that.
Physical evidence has no motivation. It just is. People have motivation. Motivation to tell the truth. Motivation not to tell the truth. Those are things that you're going to have to take into consideration. And when you evaluate Mr. Meade's written statement, you will need to take that into consideration. Is it truthful? Is it accurate? Well, we know one area it's not accurate. Mr. Meade described this encounter at the intersection of Carl and Ferris Road. He says, I looked right, north to ensure the road was clear, and I saw a dark-colored hatchback driving southbound on Carl Road. The vehicle approached the intersection in the left-hand lane, signaling, turn signal, that he was turning left east on Ferris Road. The vehicle stopped. That's what he said. The vehicle stopped. He didn't say it slowed. He said it stopped. He went on to wait for the northbound traffic to clear. So what he's saying is there's cars coming northbound. You know, we've all made left-hand turns. We know that you can't turn in front of somebody if they're coming through the intersection that you're turning in. So the vehicle stopped to wait for northbound traffic to clear. And as it did so, I saw the driver had a black handgun with an extended magazine in his right hand. He had the gun raised above the steering wheel, held it sideways. Now, bear in mind, he's got it in his right hand. Mr. Meade is located to the left. He said held it sideways, i.e. palm down. So this extended clip, which emerges maybe an inch or two out of the gun, he says he could see when it's palm down holding sideways. Of course, he saw it later on the underneath Mr. Goodson when he turned him over. Palm down, aimed towards the windshield. He was repeatedly straightening his arm and forward, such that he was pumping the gun towards the windshield, then pulling it back. He appeared to be yelling as he pumped the gun, but I could not tell what, if anything he was saying. Okay, pumping the gun, appears to be yelling.
That's a new dance move.
Activity right there as he stopped at the waiting to turn. A car traveling northbound on Carl Road approached the intersection. Approached, not in the intersection, not clearing the intersection, but approached the intersection. And the individual aimed the gun at the driver of the car. So now he's either, aiming. The individual tracked the driver with the gun as the car traveled north, but I could not see whether the driver reacted to the gun. So he's saying, car's coming, he's tracking it like that as he comes all the way through the intersection. Play 13.
I apologize, Tim. Partner password. You're going to put the password back in. It's not working. Was it working?
Tim, what did you do? Gary really needed you.
Computer working. So let's watch what he just described in his written statement. Stop. He didn't stop. The car that was in the intersection was exiting the intersection as Casey is approaching. This is his detailed statement. What do we know?
What are you guys talking
We know
about?
this came January 4th to the investigators. We can also probably assume that Mr. Meade had no awareness that there was a video of this interaction.
Oh, they probably want to go home.
Is that truthful? Who's got a motivation here to deceive? Physical evidence doesn't lie. People do. So what evidence is there against the idea that, or the suggestion that Casey turned and pointed the gun? Well, we can start with, he's got 6 shots in his back. They're not in his front. They're not in his side. Well, there's one that's kind of in the far left side, back side. You've seen the one. But think about that, because they're going to talk and all this. Huh. If there's going to be a shot in the side, wouldn't it be the shot that's the side that's turning towards? What do we know about the shots? Well, they're kind of grouped. You got the upper shots and the lower shots. And Dr. Shepler said to you, I can't tell you what order they came in. I don't know what shot number 1, 2, or 3 is. She labeled them as she examined them, and nobody's maintaining that the labels are the absolute order they came in. But there's several things that we can probably reasonably conclude from her examination. First conclusion that I think we can make is that the 3 upper shots, mid-back, left mid-back, or upper back, I'm sorry, midline.
Keep in mind, this is at 1.5 times speed.
And this might be easier if I just hold up.
Oh, maybe. Maybe.
We got this grouping up here. These 2 shots, she said, would have caused like a spinal shock, which would have at least momentarily paralyzed his legs, causing him to fall. These 3 lower shots, you have a sharp angle, upward angle, and a sharp upward angle there. How do you get those? He's got to be
You're right,
bent
Purple.
over, like falling. And I think it's reasonable to conclude that if he was bent over when he was shot, and those are the first shots, he didn't then straighten up
You right.
to get the upper shot. So here are the first ones. These are the last ones.
That's why I put it on the vertical screen.
Right. I don't want to belabor things too long.
Oh, thank you, Jesus.
You will have all the evidence. You can look at it closely. You also have Dr. Bauer's testimony.
This is not the
And
right.
I know you were all attentive during that. And he places Casey inside the kitchen, not in the doorway.
Oh my God.
We know that there's no damage to the doorway other than the storm door, and that all the bullets go on into the kitchen. Casey's keys are in the door. We've got a Subway bag that we know he was carrying because he bought it, 5 minutes before. That's laying on the floor off to the left of the position that he comes to rest on the floor. We have the gun under his chest. Remember,
Sorry, guys.
Officer Rosser said it was under his chest. Is that consistent with it being in his hands? We know the bag was in his hands. Is that under his chest? Is that underneath him? It's off to the side. If the gun's in his hands, and we know he had to open the door, so you need to have the keys to do that, because the keys are still in the door. Pretty soon you run out of hands. So I submit that the physical evidence suggests that the gun wasn't in his hands, that it was in a flimsy holster that was in his belt. You have
This has never, ever, ever been said.
even Dr. DeMullen says, the lower shots that they match up with the holes in the storm door, and the level has to be at the kitchen. So he's got him kind of teetering, as he steps in, because once you're in the kitchen, how do you turn and point the gun around the door to become this imminent threat? You can't. Dr. Bauer tried to do it in his, all of his different programming and stuff, and he said, I just couldn't make things line up. Mr. DeMullen makes it line up, but he's got him with his left foot on threshold and his right foot hanging out here in space. And Dr. Bauer told you about how, from a biomechanics standpoint, when you step up, all the weight is on the foot you're stepping up on.
Okay, guys, I was going to wait until he finished to let you guys know this. But they are not that. This. I was watching over here until the cat decided to commandeer the laptop and sleep on it. They are going home for the day, and the person, the clerk at the court was like, because I know Lacey Crisp asked, is there any way to get an alert when there's a verdict instead of just like sitting here? And no, no, no. Why would we have such an efficient system? That this is Franklin County, girl. This ain't Delaware County. Welcome, patriotic. And while I have you guys, before I hit play again, just make sure to double tap your screens if you're watching on your phone. If you're on X, retweet, hit the heart button. If you're on regular X or YouTube, like, and everybody please subscribe.
How do you then turn and reach around the door? Physical evidence doesn't lie, ladies and gentlemen. People do. That's what this case comes down to. Have they proven that he turned and pointed the gun? They have to rely on Mr. Meade's statement that certainly discussing the initial encounter is grossly inaccurate. Grossly. I mean, that's not a small mistake.
Oh my God.
He's embellished it. Just like doesn't bother to, you know, he's going to rely on, I got a little placard on my vest and somebody's going to see it from 100 yards away. He wants to be, if he's, as he's pursuing, the smart tactical move is let him know you're a police officer. He's got a light package and you saw the video of what that looks like. He doesn't use it. But after the shooting,
I can't see.
while they're still trying to clear the house to get the medics in, what the heck is he doing? Is he trying to get the medics in? He's going to hold the medics as he goes across the yard and flicks on his lights.
Coco, no.
Why would you do that? Is that perhaps a sign of recognizing, whoa, this wasn't a good shoot? Is that, I want to be able to cover things up? I want to be able to say that I had my lights on?
I just can't believe we're here.
Body cam doesn't lie. Physical evidence doesn't lie. People do.
Hi, Mitchell.
I'm gonna wrap up here, ladies and gentlemen. There's a lot more I could say, but we want to be judicious in our time.
They know that the jury is going one way or the
let
other.
Let the defense get up here, but I want to leave you with one thing.
Think about this. They have been up there. So the judge started reading at around 15 minutes. He got up there around 35 minutes in, and it's an hour, 13 minutes. What? So that makes it, he was up there like a total of 30 minutes for a state prosecuting a case. Like, you guys, either they know that they won or they know that they lost. And the way, if you caught on to the way that he was speaking at the beginning of making his opening argument, he was talking about how if they vote a certain way, that would make it so that they didn't win. Like, he doesn't want there to be a total acquittal. He wants that to not happen. They did not do this last year. They did not have this kind of situation last year that they were dealing with. We're going to keep going.
Because there is another statement from Mr. Meade, and I submit to you it's a bit more accurate. And that was on the porch on that day that was caught by Seth Penny, the Minerva Park police officer, on his body cam when Mr. Meade is speaking with another officer, and the other officer says, "Hey, I missed the call. What happened?" And then Mr. Meade steps off the porch to tell family members that they need to go down further in the yard, and he comes back up. You got it queued up there, Gary.
I can't believe that Gary would be throwing a fit. That's so not like him.
Yeah, Julie asked for That's what he said there.
No, nobody heard it.
Did he say the guy turned and pointed his gun at me? I didn't have a choice. No. So he pulled up with a gun, got coming from the street, gun in his hand, as I was holding up. Their own expert told you that's not justification. Evaluate all the evidence.
Coco, no.
I've only touched on some of it. There's a lot more. Ask yourself, if Casey was going to turn and point the gun, why would he?
Places? May we approach? May?
Ho, ho, ho. Ho, ho, ho. Do you want some blush, Christmas kitten? Is that what you are needing? Is that why you bother me while I do this very important task? It's a little zing zing, a little zing zing. Yes. Now you lay down. Okay. For real, Mr. Collins.
Ladies and gentlemen, there's other evidence. You know what it is. We've tried to be meticulous in presenting it. I leave you with this. Does it make sense that someone is going to point a weapon with the safety on? Does that make sense to you? That's how the gun was recovered. And I haven't even talked about the AirPods, YouTube music.
I know. So you
All
know
those
that you lost this case.
Are there for your consideration. I submit to you, ladies and gentlemen, that when you evaluate all the evidence, you will conclude
This
that
is
the defense has
wild.
not proven that Casey Goodson turned and pointed the gun, and that the physical evidence establishes not only that he didn't do that, but that he wasn't even aware Mr. Meade was there. Thank you.
Ladies and gentlemen, we're going to take a break. Otherwise, Carmen will scream and yell at me. About a 15-minute break. I guess I have to read this still. Do not discuss this case among yourselves. Do not permit anyone to discuss it with you in your presence. It is your duty not to form or express an opinion on the case until it is finally submitted to you.
Oh, Gary, you got a hot mic.
You need a break for it.
Clumsy fingers.
Also, I just now put this together, which is really dumb. Some of these people were out very late last night because last night was election night in Ohio. Wouldn't that be funny? They're like, yes, so give the defense the chance to come up here and talk, and then I'll bring the pit bull. He'll come up after me and flush all this out for you guys. Mr. Merkel. Mr. Merkel, do you think that Gary is a tidy man at home? I guarantee you his office has 47 different stacks of paper. and he knows what's in each stack, paper by paper.
We're not gonna take a break for someone who just, you have to go down. I mean, consider we need to go, like, the process is happening next.
Thank you.
It's wild to me. I'm having so much more trouble today seeing the chat than yesterday. Like,
Back on the record, 21 CR 5052, State of Ohio versus Michael Jason Meade.
I'm gonna have to wear
prior to bringing in the jury.
contacts tomorrow.
Good jury.
I swear to God, if you bite me one more time, I am taking you to a Chinese restaurant. Get down. Don't you try to bite my finger. This cat wants to play. Oh my God, is Caitlin gonna do it? No. I was gonna say if Caitlin would do it, it would be an automatic like swing. She's so good. I don't know. She may rub some jurors the wrong way with her line of questioning. And Mark kind of like sleazily, I don't know of a better word. I'm sorry, Mark. But he can like talk his way out of it a little bit better than Caitlin can. Coco?
Everyone can have a seat.
I am trying to do my makeup
Any closing argument on behalf of the defense?
May I proceed, Your Honor?
You may.
for the date that I do not have.
May it please the court, Madam Court Reporter, Madam Ballard, Mr. Short, Mr. Merkel, Caitlin,
Love that
Jason,
he does that.
Stephen Mulder. Good morning, ladies and gentlemen of the jury.
I
In the beginning
love
of this
how
case,
he
you
says
took an oath,
everyone's
you stood up
names.
and you swore not to form any opinions, conclusions, until you heard all the evidence, the closing arguments, and the instructions of law. We've been a little busy, but we tried to watch you. And I believe you've kept that duty and met the oath. And for that, I thank you.
Thank you, Zach.
Thank you, because without you doing that, we wouldn't have the best criminal justice system in the world. Without your civic duty, we wouldn't have the best system. So from all of us, we thank you for your service. December 4th, 2020, ladies and gentlemen, was a tragic day. The Goodson family lost a son, a grandson, a brother, a nephew, a cousin. Their family will be affected for the rest of their lives from their loss. December 4th, 2020 affects all of us in this courtroom.
Ha ha
So
ha,
let's take a
Rose.
piece of that with us for the rest of our life. It's an example of an action and a reaction affecting so many people. But your role here, ladies and gentlemen, as a juror, goes far beyond your sincere belief of the empathy for this situation. When you step back to that jury room, ladies and gentlemen, the call of justice and your legal duty requires you to set aside the understandable sympathy and empathy that you have as human beings for the loss in this situation. But that's why you have to follow the law and the judge's instructions and keep your oath. December 4th, 2020, the defendant, but Jason Meade, he has a name, Jason Meade, was doing his job. Jason Meade, it's a simple case, ladies and gentlemen, it really is. Jason Meade was doing his job the way he was trained to do. He was investigating someone, a male, who pointed a gun at him and was waving a gun.
Hit
Casey
that
Goodson, for
like.
whatever reason, just like Miss Eva Soljanopoulos, for whatever reason, turned with that gun towards him. And Jason Meade defended himself based on his
Please.
training and protected himself. The government, through hindsight, and the government, through selective misrepresentation, puts all these other facts there. The basic concept of the facts were he was investigating what he saw and was placed in a life or death situation by the actions of Mr. Goodson. With those facts and the jury instructions that you have, your verdict will be, even though it's hard, that you must acquit Jason Meade of these actions. Now, there's a basic analysis in the framework of those jury instructions. We talk about it in board here. They have a burden of proof beyond a reasonable doubt. Proof of such nature, you rely upon it in the most important of your own affairs. A surgery for a child, care for an elderly parent, one of the most important decisions in your life. First, a second, a third opinion, ladies and gentlemen. That's the type of proof beyond a reasonable doubt.
Why do you gotta say
Never
it?
shifts. It stays with them the entire time, ladies and gentlemen. It never shifts. If for some reason you believe they met their burden, then we welcome the burden shifting to us. A proof beyond a preponderance, more likely than not. A feather touching a scale. Yes, I think that's the case. Yes, I think so.
And our burden, more likely than not, actually trumps the higher burden. Doesn't make a lot of sense, but that's the way our legislature does. If they don't meet their burden, it's not guilty. And even if they do meet their burden, we do, it's not guilty. Now, closing arguments. It's a time to bring up some inferences, apply them to facts, point things out to you. And there's three common themes in the government's case. Three common things that run through the entire thing. Lack of context, low quality of evidence, and misrepresentation. All three. And when you look at those, you can call them each different thing, but what they amount to, each and every example, and there's many, but I'm only going to focus on a few. Each and every example is a building block of reasonable doubt. Each and every example in and of itself is enough to
I don't think
that
crazy
meet their burden,
Brazilians
because
here
it's a
anymore.
building block of reasonable doubt, and it will get higher and higher. First one.
She was my
They
friend
don't
first.
give you anything in context. They take everything and take it out of context. And what I mean by that, ladies and gentlemen, is that we have to put it into context for you. Because in order to make an informed choice here, you need the full picture. You need the entire context of the situation. This case is about context. The government doesn't want to provide it. They openly resist the opportunity when it's apparently appropriate to do. We have to provide the context.
You
Example,
bite my
you
hand.
just saw it in closing. They started their case in opening. The first thing Mr. Merkel said was 6 shots in the back. The first thing Mr. Merkel said in his closing was 6 shots in the back. That's all they have, ladies and gentlemen. Okay? But that's all. That's where they stop. Because someone got shot in the back, therefore it must not be justified. Okay? Now, they don't even start from the interaction. The law will tell you they have to start at the initial interaction of your analysis, where Mr. Goodson and Mr. Jason Meade's paths crossed, where they became intersected at that intersection. They start at the end. That's all they have. They just showed the video. Think about what it confirmed. The car position, Jason's first position. What happened? He saw what he saw and he did a U-turn. All of that was confirmed in the video. He pulled over to States. That was confirmed by Rosser. The full picture, ladies and gentlemen. And it's amazing what the government does. Mr. Merkel is
Or they don't do.
You heard from Dr. Shepler, an expert on wound paths and trajectories. And she told you when a person with 6 shots in the back, right to left, upward, and back to front, can be consistent with someone turning this way. That's because the projectiles are
Overruled the closing arguments.
exactly the testimony. It's not that complicated. You can still have 6 shots in the back and not be facing directly across from them. You can still have 6 shots in the back and be turned this way because it comes from over there. Right to left, upward, and back to front.
Gary's over at the table eating glass, like just gnawing.
Absolutely not. We asked Dr. Bauer, can you tell the order of the shots? Absolutely not. Dr. DeMille, can you tell the order? Absolutely not. 2 of them are their experts. And Mr. Merkel just got up here and told you, don't listen to their evidence with the experts. Listen to me because I believe these happened at this time because that's why the body's been over here like that. Again, they add their own context. It's disingenuous. What did Dr.
Don't.
Shepard say? I can't tell you in any way, shape, or form how the body was positioned. And if anybody does, they're giving it credit. Again, a building block of reasonable doubt, ladies and gentlemen. No matter what,
Lay down.
Mr. Merkel claims to be now a coroner and a biomechanic expert. Example 2, they hit this one. They hit this one in their closing. The Seth Penny video. They can't help themselves, ladies and gentlemen. Where did they start that in the indication sheet? At the 38-second mark. They
Yeah.
don't even include the part with the question. They don't, because they don't care what the question is.
Hey,
They don't want to give context. They only want the answer because that answer fits their narrative. They started from a premise of 6 shots in the back and worked backwards. And that's when it doesn't make sense, ladies and gentlemen. Who provided you context to that? Geez, we did in our questions of, Mr. Nolder did in our questions of Officer Rippey. Hey, I'm going to play you the full video. Do you hear the question that was asked? Yes. How did I miss the call? Okay, what did you observe next? He's trying to answer. He's keeping people off the street. He's telling, hey, is the scene clear for the medics? All the different things. Comes back and says, it was a U.S. Marshal channel. They leave that out just now. It was on the U.S. Marshal channel. That's how you missed the call. Was the question, why did you fire? No. Was the question, tell me why you pulled the trigger? No. The question that was answered, he was trying to answer to was, how did I miss the call? And somehow they distort that. I'm objecting here.
Overruled closing arguments.
Shut up, Gary.
Somehow.
For real.
Because it doesn't fit their narrative of 6 shots in the back of what was happening. Geez, Jason Meade is supposed to say to anyone who comes up there, hey, this is why I pulled the trigger. You heard plenty of testimony from officers. They're trained not to do that. They don't ask the person. You heard from Inspector Youngless. Very impressive guy. 2 things. Are you okay? And did you fire? Yes. Answer the questions. Hey, how did I miss the call? He answered the question. They don't even have the courtesy to give you the question that was asked. We had to. Example 3.
I might just have
Dr.
to put
Bauer,
on my
Dr. Bauer.
glasses.
This is the epitome of giving you evidence without context. They actually had Dr. Bauer testify about 5 slides that Dr. Newman talked about. How on earth can you testify about something if you weren't in the courtroom listening? How can you try to give an opinion? The audacity of Dr. Bauer to say, well, I have a picture. This must be what he meant. Mr. Nolan asked him, Dr. Bauer, did you listen to his testimony? No. Again, they take it out of context of 5 pictures. And they have someone comment who has no idea. How many times did Mr. Schroyer ask the doctor they knew over and over again, hey, on this picture number 4, were you trying to show this? No. Hey, on this picture over here, were you trying to show that? No, you're mistaken. Hey, what were you using this slide to do this?
I can't
Did he
believe
put a foot in the air? Because in Jason Meade's statement, he said, I saw him stepping up to the threshold. He's just trying to test the hypothesis. Could he have been at his threshold? And even though Mr. Merkel misstated it, he said it's more likely he was. He had it, he tied it to the 3 bullets, he did the anchoring, and he said, yes, it's more likely he was in the threshold. Like, that's the hypothesis. More likely, based on a reasonable degree of biomechanical certainty.
it's like ARCA for anyone from the
Example
Karen
4.
Reade trial. ARCA.
Detective
That's
Hughes.
what we're talking about here.
By January 2021, Jason Meade had given his words, given his statement of his perceptions and his beliefs and his fears that occurred on December 4th. A month later, without seeing a video, without knowing what witnesses said, without knowing any of that stuff, based on his memory. Okay? His observations. Jason didn't have to give that statement. And what did we talk to Detective Hughes about? Detective Hughes, you don't have the email back there, was invited. If you have any questions, please ask us from the lawyer. If you want to talk to Jason, please let us know. If you have any concerns, all of a sudden, Detective Hughes has concerns, right? Did Detective Hughes do anything when he got that statement if he had these concerns? No. Days became months, months became years, and 5.5 years later, even though prior testimony at the hearing, he had the opportunity under oath to talk about his concerns. There's never a written report. There's never a document of any of that concerns, but he had concerns. 5.5 years later,
Hello,
it
everyone.
doesn't fit in their narrative. Now that's why he has to have concerns. Again, part of the context. You don't get many chances. The detective reads the stuff, compares it, says, geez, I got some questions, I got some issues. Gee, I wonder if I've been asked to can I talk to you? It was an open invite, ladies and gentlemen. Full context is following up. And it's especially the case here because he testified under oath before and he never said a word. The first time ever to the people was to you.
Exactly. Exactly.
That's what happens when you start from a premise of 6 shots in the back. That's all you have. Another example of the government putting stuff out of context. And again, all of these are individual building blocks of reasonable doubt. And that's their burden, beyond it. Dr. Bauer's need to place Casey Goodson into the kitchen to make his math work.
No one
Okay.
thinks that,
What's we know,
Mitchell.
ladies and gentlemen? What's
Talking
we know?
about
He likes
ARCA.
angles and he likes measurements. They show a picture to him from the Rippy video that shows Mr. Goodson's feet. They're at the doorway. Mr. Holder said, hey, Dr. Bauer, did you do that analysis? Did you do the measurements? No. You could have, right? He chose not to, right? He could have. And he even said, Dr. Bauer said, well, the momentum probably moved him to there from the fall, which actually places him closer to the threshold. And Dr. Bauer said, I reviewed all these things and all these objective materials. Yes, I consider those. Hundreds of documents. And the reason we asked him about it's the first time he's ever testified in a criminal trial is because in a criminal trial, in the justice system, you hear 911 calls. And you heard a 911 call. Remember what he said to Mr. Holder? I don't remember if I heard that or not. I don't remember if I heard that or not. Ladies and gentlemen, that 911 call is haunting. You won't forget it. And he's an expert. But you know why he has to disregard it and not give you the full context? You know why, ladies and gentlemen? Ms. Stevens?
I was like, what? What's she doing?
In my house. He lives with me. So who shot him? I don't know. I just heard the gunshot and I would get up and he's laying in the door. Okay.
He's laying in the door. This is the first civilian. And the first observation she has, remember, she hears
I
screaming,
don't know.
she runs out there past Ernest and she looks around. And unfortunately, she was there that day. And unfortunately, she has to see her grandson
Yeah.
laying face down at the time with
It's
his arms
awful.
like that. And as soon as she picks up the phone to call 911, what does she say? He was laying in the door. Not in the kitchen, not in the door, in the door. How else does she corroborate that? She was their very first witness. May I have the Elmo?
Remember, we watched this the first trial through probably like 3 weeks ago.
This is where she puts him, in the door. That's her writing that Mr. Merkel had on that. In the door, in the threshold.
This is
When he
exactly.
doesn't fit Dr. Bauer's narrative, his math, and his model, and his surrogate. So that's why he doesn't consider it. That's why he didn't remember the 911 call. When you have your first witness on the scene say in the door, why else, ladies and gentlemen? She didn't need a surrogate to convey what she saw. She didn't need to be paid a king's ransom like Dr. Bauer to try to say what he saw. Unfortunately, she was there. Who corroborates what she said? You're going to have Exhibit 27 back there. Jason Meade's words and observations and beliefs and fears. And in that, he says, I couldn't close the door. The body's there. I couldn't, the door wouldn't close. Objection.
Oh,
Overruled,
shut
closing
up,
argument.
Gary.
It's in the statement that the door couldn't close. He then pulls him and rolls him over. The door couldn't close because he's in the threshold because his feet are there, ladies and gentlemen. And he's pulled over from the front to the back, ladies and gentlemen. Dr. Bauer doesn't even know that. He just has got him laying in the back. His momentum took him there. He doesn't even read the reporter, Jason Meade's statement that he rolled him over. Who else corroborates that besides Sharon Payne and Jason Meade? Jenny Jones, again, comes running out, not sure. Looks over, she can only see Casey's hands like this in his eyes. Cannot see anything below the chest area. Because it's out in the door. It's in the door. It's in the threshold. Now, let's use your common sense, ladies and gentlemen. Common sense, right? Where was most of the glass found from the storm door? On the step.
Inside.
On
right?
the step on the porch. You'll have many pictures of it back there. Okay? So if the door is closed, ladies
I
and
hate
gentlemen,
that for you,
right,
Amanda.
and the glass goes, the projectiles come this way, the glass
Yeah.
is gonna be inside the door, inside the kitchen. If the door is open, ladies and gentlemen, if it's told to be open and it's resting on somebody, okay, like Jason Meade said, read a statement, it was resting against the door. The door was resting against it. And the projectiles come through here. Where's the glass gonna be? Using your common sense. On the stoop. On the stoop. That's cooperation using your common sense, not a 3D model.
Hey guys, we have a member of Casey's family in here. So I just before anything's said, I just want to be respectful. I've said that all along, but I let her know in the chat that I will keep her family in my prayers because this is a horrible situation for both sides. I know I came in here talking about his family, but it comes full circle, you know? So just use kind words. You never know who's out there and what they're dealing with. Thanks.
Just basic, ladies and gentlemen. But they don't want to give that to you. They only give you part of the concept. Again, another building block of reasonable doubt. Partial content, the chunk science by Dr. Bauer. Again, partial, oddly, angles and measurements. At a prior hearing, he was asked, can you give us the amount of feet that your model puts Casey Goodson into the kitchen? That's the issue, ladies. Into the kitchen around the threshold. Yeah, I'll get it for you. Does he give it? No. Can you give us the angle that you put the door being open or closed? Yeah, I'll get it to you. Under oath. Does he do it? No. To you, he says, oh, I sent the whole thing to you guys. At any time that Dr. Bauer turned to you and said, this is how many feet I placed Casey Goodson in the kitchen in my model? No. At any time, did he say, this is where I had the angle of the screen door? No. And then we even ask him, it's cross-examination. Mr. Knowles like, hey, you never gave me that information. It's a wordplay and stuff like that. All he had to do is turn to you and say, this is how many feet I had the model in the kitchen. He can't because that blows up this whole theory, ladies and gentlemen. He can't. We provided the full context. Remember, keep this in mind, Dr. Bauer has everything flat. Everything flat, even though everybody testified about trajectory. When it goes to an intermediate object, okay, it can wobble, it can change direction, it can fall, they call it tumble, and it can fragment. You heard a lot about fragmenting, right? Not to Dr. Bauer. It's got to be straight because it's got to fit his science. Even Professor Stoughton's direct testimony. Where did he start it at? The sales mistakes. That's the first question they asked him about on December 4th actions. He doesn't start up at the intersection, even though he told you correctly that your analysis is confined to from the time at the intersection where they had interaction until the time that the use of force is done. Nothing before, nothing after. He agreed to that. He confirmed the totality of it. Again, we had to bring out the intersection with him. And what did he say? At the end of his testimony across, he said, well, yeah, obviously he reacted to something. That's why he did the U-turn. No, but they think, they got to tell you he made it up. They got to tell you that he's lying about seeing the gun at the intersection. Again, another building block of reasonable doubt. Quality of the state's evidence. Call it what you want quality. Let's talk about this. I was wrong in voir dire. I didn't think anyone would lie. You witnessed a pure example of lying put on by these two people. They
Overruled closing arguments.
The government called Chris Corn to the
Gary!
All right, let's look at this. The government called Chris Corn to the stand after he's already watched prior testimony at a hearing, right? And let's look at what he told you. Well, I saw someone dancing, raising his arm, maybe singing, but I didn't see a gun. They have to have that narrative out there that he didn't see a gun because then maybe you won't think that Jason saw a gun, a trained officer at spot number 1. They have to do that. Ladies and gentlemen, it's so easy. When you look at that video that Mr. Merkel showed, that van is still moving as Casey Goodson comes by him. I submit to you that when you're driving and you're going forward and you're stopping, you're looking where you're stopping. This guy wanted some fame from the prior testimony. Okay, you're looking forward. And then what did he describe? He described an afro. We know that's not the case because we know there's a skull cap and a hoodie. Oh no, wait, not an afro, a ponytail. You can't see a ponytail for stuff. I thought it was a female at first. He actually said that.
Episode time.
The worst part, ladies and gentlemen, the biggest hypocrisy of this case about lying. Physical evidence doesn't lie. The glass on the door doesn't lie. Chris Corn lies. He got caught in 2 of them. The first one, ladies and gentlemen, he deletes his
Chris
evidence
Corn
before
was
the-
bad.
Doesn't tell them. Okay, he deletes it. Geez, now we got to come up with a reason why he deleted it. Okay, Mr. Nolder asked him, "Hey, did you have any contact with the Goodson family?"
He was harassed.
Mr. Nolder said, "Well, the prior hearing, you said you contacted them 4 or 5 times." Not sure. Are you kidding me? Let's take it one step further. Mr. Schroeder, not once but twice, asked Mr. Corn, "Why did you delete your social media before talking to the FBI?" You know what he said? "I was getting so many friend requests. Too many friend requests." Okay, all right. That's okay to me until you get to the evidence, ladies and gentlemen. Until you get to the evidence. Perjury is making a statement.
Hell of a thing.
Under oath. Another type of perjury is making 2 statements under oath that aren't consistent. Okay, he did both. One, when he said, "Oh, I've never contacted him." Oh, in prior hearing, he said, "I contacted 4 or 5 times." But then we're back to, why did you delete your social media? Too many friend requests. The government's expert, Detective Howe, provided 4 reports. Did the government talk about report number 4? Hell no. Ms. Stevens brought it out. And it's pretty simple, ladies and gentlemen, because Detective Howe does a report, sends it to them, and they send it to us. So either they didn't read the report or they didn't care and asked him that question. Because when Ms. Stevens asked Detective Howe, hey, did you do analysis that shows whether or not he had any friend requests prior to him deleting the information? Right? You remember that? The answer was, yeah, I did the analysis. Were there any friend requests? No. That's their evidence. That's their expert who says there is no, he received no friend requests
God.
during that time period. And ladies and gentlemen, they knew that, but they still put up a liar and
Yeah.
asked the liar that question. That's a building block of reasonable doubt. That's low quality evidence. I don't know if it's incompetence. I don't know what it is. But when you have information that says
It's
there is
gross
no evidence of a
incompetence.
friend request, and you give it to us, we see it, and we ask their expert that question, they already know the answer to. That's how desperate they are in this case, because all they have is 6 shots in the back. Second one, the quality of evidence, the AirPods. Mr. Merkel didn't get a chance to talk about it. The AirPods, let's talk about it. All this stuff about what was playing on the phone, right? And things like that. Why did they do that? Of course, Jason Meade didn't know he had AirPods. He had a skull cap on there, right? And of course, you're not supposed to consider that, okay? Because he didn't know it, so you don't consider that. But they have to do that. And then in that situation, ladies and gentlemen, you believe that what was playing on the phone was coming through the AirPods.
Unneeded.
It's report number 4 again. They gave it to us. And Ms. Stevens very effectively said, Detective Howe, is there any data that you saw confirming that what was playing on the phone came through the AirPods? I cannot, it did not. There is no data. Within a reasonable degree of scientific certainty, there is no data. But yet they still put forth that evidence to try to get you to think, why would we do this? Why would we do that? AirPods was not heard. Again, and it's disingenuous because their own evidence that they gave to us shows that there's no data. You can see if it happens or not. There was no data showing that it was playing.
I was looking to see how hot,
That's their case.
cold it is
Next
in
one.
here.
Detective Hughes, Penny's body worn camera. I asked Detective Hughes, you were concerned with what he said at the porch? He goes, yeah. Did you go interview Officer Phillips? That's who asked the question. No. Well, then why would I? Wouldn't you want to have the person interview who asked the question? Hey, Officer Phillips, why'd you ask the question? What question did you ask? And were you okay with the answer? And Detective Phillips, did you ask why he shot? They used word games. How did I miss the call? What happened? What happened? Oh, how did I miss the call? Gee, he gave the answer, ladies and gentlemen. It's facts.
Hey guys, sorry to interrupt, but we have a lot of viewers right now, at least for comparative purposes. If you haven't done so already and you're on X, please retweet this, like this, share a comment. Do the same thing on Facebook. And for those of you on your phones on YouTube, double tap your screen. And if you are watching on a desktop, please make sure to hit the like button and always subscribe, even if you're on your phone. Thank you.
Correct. Detective Hughes, this is a good one. The Extended Magazine. The Extended Magazine. Their gun expert, Caleb Worley, expert in guns and rifles, says it's Extended Magazine. Every single police officer they put on says it's Extended Magazine. Everyone who Detective Hughes has admiration for and holds in the high regard says it's Extended Magazine. But it doesn't fit their narrative because maybe if they say it's not Extended Magazine, then if he's pointing and waving like that, Jason Meade couldn't have seen it. He's on an island. Detective Hughes is the only person from law enforcement who says, oh, I don't consider that Extended Mag. Nice try. Nice try. Put yourself on an island against the people. Again, why? Let's get just right to it then. He just made an argument about a flimsy holster. Who's the person they asked about a flimsy holster to? The reason they had to ask Detective Hughes about the flimsy holster is because Detective Kroom said, that's the same holster I've used. I've run 100 times with it and it's never falling out. I've chased suspects, it's never falling out. Detective Kroom has it. They didn't like that answer.
So
because
much,
it doesn't fit their
Coco, that
narrative.
hurt.
So what happens? They put Detective Hughes up there and says, hey, it's flimsy, right? And I'm like, well, geez, have you ever used it? No. Are you kidding me? They put a witness on the stand and asked them about the flimsiness of the holster. And Mr. Merkel just argued it. And they did it with a detective that's never had it, never used it. That's desperation, ladies and gentlemen, to fit the narrative. Let's talk about, and again, those are all building blocks of reasonable doubt, ladies and gentlemen. Let's talk about misdirection. And he did it. They can't help themselves. The last question he asked, they did it. They try to play on your emotions. You know that you have the instructions. And you know that the instructions will direct you. Start the analysis at the time Jason Meade and Mr. Goodson first encountered one another at the intersection up until the time he discharges a service weapon. That makes common sense. You can't, if the officer didn't know something, you can't take it in the equation, okay?
I'm going to turn him
Why do they add
down.
these things in? Because they want to play on your emotions. They're hoping you're inquisitive. And when I objected, he asked the question, why? That's what they want. They want you not to look at that time frame and apply the law of facts, but why? Why would Casey Goodson do something if he had the safety on? Nobody knows that the safety's on. It doesn't come into the equation.
Sorry, everyone.
They know that. But yet that's what they're trying to do for proof beyond reasonable doubt. That's what they're trying to do, ladies and gentlemen. You can't consider of it. Their own expert, Professor Stoughton, said, no, you can't consider, you can't, in your analysis, is not to consider anything that the officer didn't know. The dental receipt, the AirPods, the subway receipt, the way Mr. Goodson parked the car because across from the fire hydrant, that's how the family parked the car. The front door not being used because it sticks. They use the side door. The dog's names, the floor plan. Safety on the gun. They can't help themselves. Their own expert told you you're not allowed to use that in your analysis. They just keep going. They just keep going. The CCW permit. Jeez, he has a CCW permit. Why would someone with a CCW permit be reckless and dangerous with a gun? A CCW, why? Okay, that's what they want you to think. But Jason Meade had no idea about it, so it doesn't come into your equation. But what do you know about it? You know that after he got the CCW permit, he had an accidental discharge in the kitchen with his grandmother and uncle there. He knows the grandmother testified he always takes his gun with him in the car all the time, and he doesn't put it up. And you know from the picture that Mr. Stevens showed in the post up there that he points the gun in the car. Misdirection, again, a building block of reasonable doubt. The holster we've covered, the CCW permit we covered. Okay, again, the so-called reenactment by FBI agent White. All right, hey, I'm trying to do the concept. Just be fair about it. Just give the full picture, right? What do? All right, where do they position the truck? They have no idea. They position it somewhere. Okay, we'll position it in that place, then move it 2 feet up, then move it 3 feet up, and do the same thing, right?
No.
Or
Coco.
move it back, but don't just do it from one spot because they can't say, they have to guesstimate where it is. No northbound traffic? They don't have any northbound traffic in their example. No matter what Ms. Merkel says, you see a northbound car clear the intersection before Mr. Goodson turns. It's there. You'll see it back there. They don't put that in there. And they put a mask on the person in the car. Jason Meade said he thought he was shouting to the person in the car. Chris Korn said he thought he was singing, but they put a mask on the person in the car. And ladies and gentlemen, it's coming from a camera. And you heard testimony that a camera doesn't catch what the human eye does. A human eye, when you look at something and you focus, you can focus in. A camera, you can't. It catches pixels. And you heard about the fisheye with the body-worn camera. You can't look. When you see something, ladies and gentlemen, if you see something in someone's hand, you zoom in on that. That's what the human eye does. The photograph that they use, remember that photograph from the street, right? At the end of the street, looking back down towards the car that Agent White talked about? Okay. In Jason Meade's statement, you will read, I pulled over near Sales and Estates, several houses north of the car. Okay. The FBI used 7. Okay. Did they put someone who's 6'2" standing outside the car in the picture? No. Did they do it from 7 houses? 1 means 1, a couple, or 2 means a couple. Several is 3, 4, 5, 6, etc. Again, take the picture from 6. Take the picture from 5 houses. Take the picture from 4 houses. Take the picture from 3 houses. Give it context. Give the full picture. They pick and choose what they want. They chose 380 feet away. That's not what Jason Meade said in his words. He said, I was several houses north. How do you navigate this misdirection? Ladies and gentlemen, you do it with common sense and you compare the physical evidence. Mr. Merkel talked about the physical evidence to the law. That's what you do. Example of common sense. You saw it. You heard Inspector Young was talk about OODA. OODA, observe, orient, decide, and act, right? We had a perfect example of that. Mr. Scanlon talked about that as well. A perfect example. May I have the screen?
Hey, Huskies, we actually think that they did.
These exhibits.
I'm sorry.
Sorry.
Your Honor, objection.
Oh my God, Gary.
These exhibit. Sorry.
Don't make me come over there
Pay attention.
and slap you.
Watch Detective Williams observe the recklessness of Mr. Merkel.
These exhibit.
He orientated.
Sorry.
He decided, he acted. Okay, one more time, Mr. Stevens. The only recklessness in this trial was his handling of the weapon. He looked, he pointed at him.
These exhibit.
Gets away. Detective Williams knows that gun's not loaded. Detective Williams knows that gun can't be fired. But what you saw was I observed something, I orientated myself to it, I decided what to do, and I acted. That's how they're trained, ladies and gentlemen. That's how officers are trained. You heard Mr. Scanlon say, I can't stop it, even in retirement. That's how important it is when a gun gets pointed at one in a safe setting with no ammunition. That's how an officer reacts.
Frank was loading his AR the other night, and I
On the boards, we talked. The
same reaction.
Common sense. There's gun, there's blood and DNA on the gun. DNA on the trigger to one person. Is there any blood or anything on the holster? No. And on the clothing, it's underwear, it's pants, it's a shirt, it's a sweatshirt, all over it. They want you to think, oh, somehow this flimsy thing. Casey never had the gun in his hand. It flipped out somehow, but it didn't get any blood or anything on the holster.
Hi, Michael.
Misdirection. The corner. Dr. Bauer in the corner. Dr. Bauer, 7 times I counted, said the trajectory was fairly flat. Flat, fairly flat, flat. Ladies and gentlemen, when you have that coroner's report back there, not one time will Dr. Shepler identify the path of the trajectory of the wounds as fairly flat or anything like that. They're all upward, some more significant than the others. But that's how Dr. Bauer has to couch it because he has to have that. He has to have the flat stuff. Minor injuries. Look at the coroner's report. You'll see minor injuries on the left hand, left forearm, the left back down there, part of the right thing up here, okay? Minor injuries, ladies and gentlemen. That's from the glass. So that's how you know that the door was on there, ladies and gentlemen. And where you won't find any, ladies and gentlemen, is on the right hand, the hand that had the gun. You won't find any in the coroner's report. Why, ladies and gentlemen? Because if the door is resting back here, okay, and I'm pointing back there, then my hand's out like that, ladies and gentlemen. I turn, I'm on the threshold, I'm standing on the threshold, and the glass hits all of this area, ladies and gentlemen. And like, unlike what Dr. Bauer said, I don't have to turn my shoulder out here. That's what Jason Meade described. You saw the pictures of it, ladies and gentlemen. And the physical evidence matches. There is no injuries on the right hand. And both Dr. Bauer and Dr. DeMuren said, I can't tell you what's going on with the right hand. Common sense. It's your
I
navigation.
will be shocked if they.
Common sense. Ladies and gentlemen, the important thing about the door is,
I can't read.
everybody said
What
that
the
when
hell
you see
happened
it,
to my eyes overnight?
the trajectory went through the door, right? You see the bullet, okay? And Dr. DeMuren testified to the spread. What do I mean by spread? The spread of those 3 shots, okay? Now, we know there were 6 shots. We know all 6 hit the body, okay?
The FBI?
The closer, this is the intervening object. The closer the object is to those holes, the more likely they're going to hit. The farther the object is away, meaning Mr. Goodson, the less likely they're going to strike the body. It's just basic things. Put a hole through there. When you go back there, put a hole through there. All 6 hit. The farther you go away, ladies and gentlemen, the less likely that's going to hit the body. That's just basic common sense, ladies and gentlemen.
Seth and I go way back.
They don't want you to use your common sense. Because it contradicts Bauer, because it puts him closer to the threshold and not farther.
Yeah,
Ladies and gentlemen, the government's theory
he
is
lives in
that
South
Jason Meade
Carolina.
is a mentalist. He's either a mentalist because they want you to believe he didn't see the gun. Okay, I know this guy's got a gun, even though I didn't see it. So within 5 seconds, I'm going to do a U-turn. I'm going to do this U-turn because I know he's got a gun. I'm going to go arrest him for it. Right? No, ladies and gentlemen.
I
He did the
woke up
U-turn because he saw it.
with a
The other thing is,
horrible
it's a cover-up.
migraine.
They put forth a theory that it's a cover-up, that Jason Meade walked out to the truck to put his lights on. Hey, here's a reason, because we asked people, do you sometimes go out and put your light on when medics are coming in? The answer was yes. That's the reason, but it's a cover-up, says Mr. Merkel.
Thanks, Rose.
Wow,
I didn't even think of that.
That he made it up. He made everything up. Geez, I think the guy's got a gun, so I'm going to go, and I'm going to air it to my team. I'm going to tell my team, who respects me and I respect them, I'm going to tell my team and lie about what I saw, even though I describe it. Even though at the scene, a gun is found. Wow, he's the luckiest person in the world. But I'm going to walk around, I'm going to make this up. Geez, I'm stuck. I got to cover.
Guys, if this doesn't get you like pissed and scared and all the feelings, I don't know what will. Even if you are, okay, if you are pro convicting this police officer or all officers or whatever, just like I'm trying to get you to understand the situation that the state has put everyone in. They put that family through this twice, making them think that they could win this case. This is, I do need to hear what Gary says first, and then I'll really be able to share my thoughts. But I just, if the government can do this to you, if the government can skew and alter these facts, we saw it with Karen. I hate to bring everything back to Karen Reed, but like, this stuff really happens. And it's happening in Columbus, Ohio right now. It's happening down the street. More like the highway. But it's scary. This is why these people need to be voted out.
That's what, ladies and gentlemen. He doesn't know that Sheila Stanford was interviewed. He doesn't know what Ryan Rosser's going to say. He doesn't know that Sheila Stanford confirms all his commands. He doesn't know that Ryan Rosser confirms what he told him at the intersection of Sales and States.
Screw
So
you,
you
Zach.
can't have a cover-up unless they're all involved. And they can't be involved because Jason Meade has no idea who Sheila Stanford is. But that's their theory. That's how desperate they are. They say Jason Meade made this up because he's a mentalist. He wanted to shoot someone in the back because he thinks he had a gun. They're doing this to someone who served their country honorably in the Marines. Someone who did 11 combat missions, not time, 11 combat missions, who's trained to do that. Someone, ladies and gentlemen, who dedicated his life to the community as a Franklin County Sheriff's deputy. Someone who then was on the SWAT team and also on the SOFAST federal team. That's somebody who lies. That's what they want you to believe. Semper Fi, ladies and gentlemen. Semper Fi. You know what it means? It's a quote for the Marines. It means always faithful.
Overruled. Closing argument.
Always faithful. Once you're a Marine, you're always a Marine.
Yep.
And you don't lie.
My dad lived
They don't
off
put you in those
of
situations for 11
Camp
tactical
Lejeune.
combat missions if you're a liar. They don't do that. But they're saying he's lying because he has to cover up. That's their theory of the case. But we know it's not the case, ladies and gentlemen. 10 pages of words, perceptions, and thoughts and beliefs. And each and every part of that was corroborated. But one word, stop versus slow. The video clearly shows he didn't stop. He's mistaken about that. There's 1,993 words in there. And they've pointed
Oh my
out every
God.
word that he's incorrect on. Are you kidding me? Each and every part. Let's go through it. His position at the intersection. He says in a statement he was in the first position. He was. Again, he doesn't know the video's there. Somehow they think the video hurts Jason Meade. Thank God the video's there because it confirms everything he wrote in a statement from memory. First there, he had an unobstructed view of right and left. The direction Mr. Goodson came, he came down this way. The traffic clearing the opposite direction, confirmed. The U-turn that was Jason's reaction to Casey Goodson's actions, confirmed. Slowing and telling Rosser tells you this, he slowed down to tell me the guy's got a gun. You see that on the video. Pulling over to States, that's confirmed by Rosser. Putting his vest on, confirmed by Rosser, and you saw the pictures after the fact. Pointing out the person in the car, out of the car. Rosser doesn't see the gun. Hey, there's a guy in the car. He's out of the car. There's a guy with a gun. Rosser doesn't see it. He's not looking for it. Rosser's still trying to figure out what's going on, he tells you. The fleeing. This is the fleeing. Rosser and another described two different ways of the person fleeing. But guess what, ladies and gentlemen? You heard the sworn testimony of Sheila Stanford. She said, I know Casey Goodson, and I saw him running from somebody. It's corroborated. And Jason Meade, if he's going to cover up, does he know somehow that they're all going to corroborate him? How dare they?
Let me put on my
Ladies and
glasses.
gentlemen, our burden, if you get there are so many blocks of reasonable doubt, ladies and gentlemen, we don't feel you have to go to the second analysis, but no due respect, if you do, we have proven our case more likely than not. We have proven it through Inspector Youngless, we have proven it through Dr. Newland, we've proven it through the sworn testimony of Sheila Stanford, and we've proven it through Jim Scan, as well as our cross-examinations of all the other evidence that they put forth.
We just want
Just proving,
justice.
adding context. 2 prongs we have to prove. First prong is whether or not Jason had a belief
They showed up.
that he was possibly facing a serious physical injury or death from a deadly weapon. Okay, 92 people testified that if a weapon's pointed at your way, it's a deadly threat and they'd be fearful. Right? It's pretty simple. But they made it even simpler for us because they proved it for us. Because we talk about voir dire, whether to put your client on or not. Well, when the government puts his full 10-page statement on, you don't have to. That's their evidence. They made his testimony. They made it evidence when they had RQs read it. They put his testimony in.
I don't think there would be a
One word is all
plan,
I have.
but
Jason's own words. I was in fear for my life at the time I fired the weapon. Quote, I believed he intended to shoot me
You're
and that I
welcome,
wouldn't be killed.
friend.
Quote, at the time I fired, I did not think I had any other reasonable option to protect my life and threat presented by the suspect's actions. Again, everything is dictated by the individual's actions. Action and reaction.
no.
Casey Goodson's gun was found underneath his torso when they turned him over. Did we prove more likely than not? Because that's our burden. Did he have a subjective belief? 100%, ladies and gentlemen. 100% more likely than not. Second one.
And we
proved the
we
second
both
prong.
want
Now,
accountability,
we
just
have an
different
instruction.
ways,
The
you
second prong
know?
is reasonableness. Whether a reasonable officer stepping into the shoes of Jason and viewing or knowing what Jason knew at the time could believe the need to use deadly force in that situation. Not would they, but could they believe the need of that choice? And is that choice reasonable? All right.
Amanda, is your profile photo one from one of the standouts with Casey?
Now, how do we analyze that, the reasonableness? The Supreme Court, State v. White, gives us guidelines.
I appreciate you being here,
First is the
everyone.
severity of the crime. There's
Excuse
2
me.
examples of the severity of the crime. The first is waving at the intersection. That's aggravated menacing. The second is when you pointed at someone, that's an attempted felonious assault. Also improper handling of a firearm, which is a felony. Attempted felonious assault is a felony. And the last one is at the door. When the guard.
Overruled. Is closing argument.
Oh my God, for like the 12th time, Gary.
Outside the evidence, Your Honor. None of this.
Overruled. Closing argument. Closing argument.
Gary.
Continue, Mr. Collins.
Thank you, Your Honor. Appreciate it. So again, ladies and gentlemen, the last thing, serious crime, is when at the doorway, when he turns, when the suspect turns, when Mr. Goodson turns.
Whose house is what?
Those are all severe crimes. Have we proven more likely than not that those? Yes, every single law enforcement officer told you they would have a duty to investigate, and it's a serious crime. It's a threat. Depending on what you do with a gun, it's a deadly threat, a potential threat. You name it, it's serious. More likely than not. Detective Hughes even swore an affidavit to that, ladies and gentlemen. He went in front of a judge and said, I swear that these facts are true to my knowledge. And it was somebody waving a gun in a car. That's a crime. The second gram factor you'll see in the jury instructions was a suspect trying to evade or flee. Okay, what do we know about that? Well, you have Rosser testifying what he saw. The person started to walk, then picked up. Was he eluding you? Yes. Jason Meade words, he tells you what he sees. And who else corroborates that, ladies and gentlemen? Was the suspect attempting to flee? Sheila Stanford. I see him running. He was running from somebody. So we have proven more likely than not that second gram factor, ladies and gentlemen. That's our burden. Now, the disturbing thing about Mr. Merkel's closing is this is what he said, that we had to prove for justification that Casey pointed the gun towards him. We don't have to prove that. We have to prove his actions were reasonable. And he misstates the law. We have to prove that Jason Meade's actions were reasonable. We don't prove anything about Casey Goodson, but they can't help themselves. They have to go there. U.S. Marshals, please drop the gun, drop the gun, drop the gun.
Yes. One of the things that Rose said in the comments that I think is important to remember and keep in mind is we didn't know whose house this house was. So many times we see these foot pursuits and these robberies gone bad, and the person takes a car, whether it's theirs or someone else's, drives it, wrecks out, and goes into a house. And then you've got a hostage situation. And then you're responsible for how many lives? However many are in the house. It's a terrifying concept when you put yourself in that position, having had the training that he had. It was unfortunate. It was the only thing that I can think of. It was unfortunate that the gun was set to auto, but there was a witness that testified to that we didn't get to see. That was on the list of people I wanted to show you if the trial went another day. So I highly recommend, I'll give you guys that information if you want it. For you guys to go back and watch.
Consistency and collaboration and credibility, it's not a coincidence. It's not a coincidence when it's the truth. You can't be consistent and corroborate things and be credible if it's the truth, ladies and gentlemen, and it matches the physical evidence. Those gram factors will be there. Now you have to step into the shoes of Jason Meade. And in this situation, ladies and gentlemen, here you have to step into the shoes of someone pointing a gun at you, leveling a gun back towards you. Those are the shoes you step into. And who did we ask if they would respond? I would submit they're all reasonable. Detective Rosser, Sergeant Stanley, Officer Rippey, Officer Penny, Marshal Youngless, Detective Williams from the FBI, Detective Kroom, Detective Hughes, FBI Agent White, even Scanlon and Stoughton both said, well, Stoughton said he hoped he would fire. Everybody else said they would fire. And everyone else would. Reasonable. Those are reasonable police officers. Ladies and gentlemen, each and every action we've shown in our case of what Jason Meade's actions were based on the actions of Mr. Goodson were reasonable. Let's go through them now. Let's compare the use of force, okay? Let's go through there. Did he believe he was going to be shot? His decision to use of force was reasonable. Let's go. Ms. Stevens, can I have the chart? Let's compare Stoughton, their use of force expert, to Scanlon. This is a comparison I'll take every day and twice on Sunday, ladies and gentlemen.
I'd give that to not listen to him again.
Stoughton, 5 years. Scanlon, 33. Remember when Ms. Stevens asked Stoughton, hey, would you agree that someone with 5 years of experience versus 33 is not experienced? He said, yeah, I would agree with that. I don't think he knew he was talking about himself. Next one. Stoughton trains executives and higher ups. And oh, by the way, children in self-defense. That's what he does. Scanlon, thousands trained at all levels, ongoing, current, at every single level for 33 years. Jim Scanlon's been training. And then after that, when he had this consulting firm that went around the country to train people. Where training? None in Ohio ever for Stoughton, because he doesn't do that. Scanlon, extensive everywhere. Certified in Ohio? Not Stoughton. Scanlon, yes. SWAT experience? Not Stoughton. Scanlon, yes. Who do they train? This guy they put on trains first.
For the record, I don't think that Stoughton is going to be asked to be a witness anymore. He is the #1 use of force expert in America because of George Floyd. He has only been successful with one case in Ohio, and it was in Columbus. And that was a while ago, so I don't think he's going to be brought in anymore. He's too much. He's takes up too much money, resources, and he's not proven himself. So, for the record, put money on it.
Year law students in criminal law and second-year law students in criminal procedure, and they want to compare him to Jim Scanlon. And this is the best part. He told the standards that they use. How many times did Mr. Scanlon say, I can only use the standard that's provided to me for my analysis? Their expert actually told you he was going to use a different standard than you use. Ms. Stevens.
What you guys didn't see yesterday is that when he was giving his testimony,
standard we're talking about here, I'm applying
Here.
generally accepted practices, which is a different standard than, for example, what the jury is asked to
There you
provide,
go.
and a different standard.
There you go. Their expert applying a different standard. They don't even understand the standards. He told you on.
Okay. So yesterday when he was giving his testimony right here, hopefully y'all can see my cursor right here. He had a card that said Black Lives Matter. And I guess the lawyers saw it and he had to put it down. I didn't find out about that until I was going to bed last night.
For example, what the jury is asked to
There you
provide,
go.
and a different standard.
There you go. Their expert applying a different standard. They don't even understand the standards. He told you on there, I'm using a different standard. Ladies and gentlemen, I had one job while he was testifying. I had one job. I had to count how many times Seth Stoughton on direct examination by Mr. Schroyer said the word tactic or tactical. I have a newfound love and compassion for what our court reporter does. 62 times he said the word tactic or tactical in the direct examination for Mr. Schroyer. 62 times. In your jury instructions, the word will not be in there once because you're not to consider those. But that's all they have, ladies and gentlemen. That's how they try to go to prove beyond a reasonable doubt. It's not in there, ladies and gentlemen. And then they go to the cover and the teamwork and the lights and sirens. And what did the reasonable experts say? There's a situation. The situation determines what you do. Sometimes you have the ability to take cover. Sometimes you have the ability to go slow. Other times, as Detective Hughes said, you got to be a cop. You go alone. You assume your team's following behind you. Sometimes you turn your lights and sirens on. Mr. Scanlon said in this situation, it would exaggerate the situation if he turned his lights and sirens on when he saw him out of the car, because they'll flee faster. No, they want one standard, a general standard. It doesn't happen. You won't see in the jury instructions risk-benefit analysis. The higher the risk, the higher the danger. Those are Stoughton's creations. They're not going to be in there. You will see in the instructions severity of the crime, immediacy of the threat, whether Mr. Goodson was evading arrest. We have proven more likely than not those factors, ladies and gentlemen. Ladies and gentlemen, he said academia and academic like 9 times. That's because he's an academic person. He's not a trainer. He's not up on a law. And there's a saying in the practice, ladies and gentlemen, those who do. Those who do the work, do the work. Those who can't, they become law professors because they can't do the work. Timing and reaction is a big thing in this case, ladies and gentlemen. The reason that Dr. DeMullen tells you that the response time that someone perceives a threat that they fire is between 0.32 and 0.86, okay? That's the test, depending on your training and stuff like that. Now, the reason he did the timing of a 22-year-old male who turning the torso was to go into his model. Is there time between the time someone reacts? And remember, Jason Meade says he steps to the left, someone reacts. Can you turn your torso one way or another? And the study says, yes, it's 0.38, okay? So what that means is, and this is what we went over before, is I had him do it. Dr. DeMullen's not saying that he was turning more to the right. He could be turning back to the left. He could be turning to the right. He could be here. But there's time from when someone sees the gun pointed at them, aka Mr. Goodson from Jason Meade, that he could turn back this way. He could turn more that way. And it fits into the reaction time. That's what they don't understand. That's what Dr. Bauer couldn't comment because he was in the courtroom listening to what Dr. DeMullen said. Timing, Art Hughes. Art Hughes. Go ahead, Ms. Stevens. Art Hughes asked me in a clip. That's everything, right?
Yes. Please slow down a little bit too, please.
You got it. I apologize. Yeah, you slow down a little bit. Art Hughes in a control setting gets to ask to slow down. You know who doesn't get to ask to slow down? Jason Meade. You know who doesn't get to hit the pause button? Jason Meade. You know who doesn't have the forward of that? Jason Meade. We did that as a group. Remember, Bourdieu. That fits in between 0.32 and 0.86. That's how much time you have to react. Ladies and gentlemen, I told you in voir dire, sympathy and empathy, we ask you to be superhuman. We ask you to see someone lose their life, see life-saving measures being going on, see those coroner's pictures, but yet don't let it affect you. It's an improper thing of our court system. We ask too much from you. And all I can ask you is if you feel yourself sympathy and empathy, if you feel yourself in the jury room, remember, go to the table with the law and the facts. Because you're going to feel that way. It's human nature. It just happens. But go to if you feel yourself saying, well, what about Casey Goodson's perspective? What about that? You got to go to the table that says you're not to include that. You're not to analyze that because that's a hard thing. But that's why he finishes with the safety. Why would someone fire a pointed gun if they had the safety? It doesn't come into the analysis, ladies and gentlemen. I'm wrapping up, Your Honor. 5.5 years, Your Honor. 5.5 years, ladies and gentlemen, there was not one concern expressed about the Rippy video, about this, because it didn't fit their narrative. There was no report documenting the credibility of his concerns. The government believed it for 5.5 years. In the trial, the government claims Jason's words and perspective are not credible. However, 5.5 years, they believed his statement, words, and beliefs were credible. There was no memo to question it. There was no documentation, and it wasn't done in a prior under oath thing. 1,993 words that the government put in this case, in his statement. They chose to put it. It becomes a testimony. He was mistaken about one. The government wants to claim that 5.5 years of inaction. Think about this. The action of giving the statement, that's Jason Meade's action. Their reaction was nothing. Inaction for 5.5 years. Now, ladies and gentlemen, Your Honor, with the court's permission, I'd like to do a demonstration. And first, Your Honor, I'd like to ask Jason Meade to stand up, please. Come over here. Objection, Your Honor.
Overruled, closing argument.
Your Honor,
No.
Gary, you're not going to win this, Gary. Hi, Nicole. Oh, Scott's coming in, sharing the information for memberships.
Your Honor, may we approach?
No,
This is what blows their entire case in Dr. Bauer.
I'm getting a shirt
The tape
made. Says, shut up, Gary.
65.3 inches. He says 65.3 inches was the level of the barrel. All right, when that rifle was fired, 65. He said it could be 66.3, and it could be 64.3. All right, those represent those three areas. Okay, Mr. Nolder, any question on that? No, never. All right, 65.3. There you go. Okay. Now, here's the problem. Dr. Bowers never fired the rifle. They don't understand that. He has him, Jason Meade, standing straight up, and he has him with his feet like this. All right, never fired. He has no idea about the recoil. He has no idea about how it kicks, how it goes higher or lower, because he's never fired it. The Newlands fired it, Scanlon's fired it, and their FBI agent fired it. And what did they talk to you about the training, the techniques of that gun? You have to put it here, ladies and gentlemen. You have to put it here because of the kickback, the recoil they call it. You have to put it either in your pectoral muscle. Both Agent White described that, as well as Jim Scanlon. You have to put it here because of the kickback. And how did Mr. Scanlon say they train people in the SWAT? They train people in this. They train with that walk, the isosceles triangle, walk and walk. What did Agent White say? And when you fire this, you have to lean into it. Okay? Same exact thing that Mr. Scanlon did. This and this. Okay, ladies and gentlemen? This and this. Here, we're here. And remember, there's a sight on top of this. Okay? So I'm going to put this barrel, ladies and gentlemen, at 65.3 inches. All right? It'd be on top of my shoulder, ladies and gentlemen. And I'm taller than him that you just saw. And there's a sight there. There's a sight up top. I'd have to even go like this. 66.3, I'd be on my tippy toes. And I'm taller. And 64.3, there, that's level. Do the levels again. 64.3, 5.3, 6.3. Where's the butt of the gun? It's on the top of my shoulder. Mr. Scanlon said it would be impossible to fire from the top of your shoulder. Oh, you wouldn't be able to control it. That's why they put it here. And Jason had a vest on. It would be even higher. But Dr. Bauer doesn't understand that because he's never fired a weapon. That blows their entire map. And remember that floating gun that you saw? That floating gun in his pictures? He didn't put a figure there because he can't. Because it's impossible to fire that gun on the top of the shoulder, and you can discredit his entire testimony. They actually use a biomechanical expert on guns who never fired the gun. Same concept, ladies and gentlemen. That's how desperate they are. It defies common sense. The government wants you to judge this case from the screen, ladies and gentlemen. The screen. But the law requires that you judge this from the street, where officers are, not what you see up on a screen. Why? On the screen, everything can be enlarged. Everything can be slowed down, made louder, replayed, enlarged, and most importantly, it can be criticized by them. On the street, Jason had to decide, ladies and gentlemen, whether the gun he had already seen twice, was going to be the gun that killed him. He had no pause button. He had no crystal ball. And he had no duty to wait for the first shot. The law does not require perfection from our law enforcement officers. It requires reasonableness, and we've proven that. Criticism of tactics that aren't in your
Hey guys, before he ends, make sure that you have either retweeted, liked by hitting that heart, or commented on this stream, please, for those of you on X. For those of you on YouTube, if you are on your phone watching, please double tap the screen. Make sure you are subscribed as well. And same thing if you are on a laptop watching. And Facebook, do all the things. Thanks for watching every Tuesday through Friday, starting at 3:45. And we'll talk after this.
jury instructions is not proof beyond a reasonable doubt. It's not. Even amid this tragedy, ladies and gentlemen, reasonable means lawful. Lawful means that Jason Meade is not guilty. I thank you for your time. I thank you for your effort. I thank you for your attention. And I wish you Godspeed in your deliberation. Thank you.
He's worth the money that the FOP is paying. I think that's all he's doing now is just police cases. Yeah, guys, this is important what I have on my screen right now because I have guest speakers coming in next week. Hot and Bravo on Twitter, also known on here as J7. She's going to be doing a little something the day of my operation, a week from today. And there's going to be other people other days. So turn on the notifications, please. It'll be a good time. And they're not necessarily doing trial stuff. They're just coming with their own thing and it'll be fun. Gary's about to lose his shit.
The only evidence that you're to consider in here isn't what counsel say. It's not what comes out of our mouths. It's what comes out of this courtroom. Okay. The demonstration or whatever, you guys see it. All right. Holding the gun down here. You heard what they said. You got to look through the sight. It's got to be raised up. And there's the margin bears in these things. That's what Dr. Bauer had indicated. But let's just back up a little bit because there's a lot that I need to cover with you. Let's start with just common sense and credibility. And we do ask you to bring common sense that can be used to compare to what Mr. Meade claims is the truth. It's his credibility through that statement. You don't take his word for it, like what they're suggesting. You must test the credibility for truthfulness, just like anyone else. Just because he says he thinks something or whatever, it doesn't make it true. So when Mr. Collins says, use only what Mr. Meade says or what he knows or what he saw or what he determines, whether you believe him and whether it fits the evidence is what you guys need to look at and see using your common sense. You just don't take his word for it. And you do examine the totality of everything, unlike what Mr. Collins is trying to say. Don't look here, don't look there, okay? Only what Jason Meade says. That's all you can do is just take what Jason Meade says. That's not what you're to do. The jury instruction says you judge all the credibility. You look at all the evidence. When looking and evaluating the evidence, you must compare it to whether Mr. Meade's assertions even make sense. The jury instruction states that you will use test of truthfulness, that you will in your daily lives, along with reasonableness of the testimony, reasonableness of the opportunity of the witness to see, hear, know things about what the witness has testified. In this case, the testify is his statement. The witness's accuracy, memory, frankness, lack of it, interest, bias, together with all the facts and circumstances surrounding the testimony. That's what you're going to be doing here. So
I'm getting a shirt that says, shut up, Gary. Damn it, Gary.
I think one of the first things that Mr. Collins brought up was the Seth Penny video. Now, when you guys get that back here, I want you to listen closely to the video. Because in the video, okay, the Officer Phillips does say, I missed the call, but you listen to him. Then he says, what happened? That's the part that they've left out. The what happened.
Huh?
And that's where you'll hear, and that's when he comes on and he tells you what happened. The call is that, he came out of the house, or he came out of the car with a gun in hand. He's going into the house with a gun in hand. That's not what he was asked. He was asked what happened, and you watch the video. I want you, you'll have it back there, and you make that determination, because you'll hear that, what happened. The convenient part that they leave out. They want to make you sound like he's just talking about the call. That's not the case. Now, it's kind of interesting that when they talk about Dr. Bauer and Dr. DeMola, okay, they both put him up in the threshold. They both put him have to be standing up, because you heard the testimony from both of them. If he was standing on the porch, these holes don't fit. Nothing lines up. And in fact, if you also look at Mr. DeMola's analysis, he doesn't even do the 3 holes in the back. Now, a lot of this was, yeah, look at what the state presented to you, what they presented to you. And he kept mentioning that they didn't meet their burden of proof beyond a reasonable doubt. Well, Mr. Merkel was up here and you got the instructions. The only burden of proof that we have, or the burden of proof to prove the charges beyond a reasonable doubt, that was that he knowingly caused serious physical harm to Casey Goodson, and it was the proximate cause of his death. The other one, that he was reckless and heedless indifference and a perverse disregard, and it caused his death. His statement establishes that. His type statement establishes those elements. He admits to all that in the statement. We don't, for him to sit there and then say, well, look at all this other evidence. They didn't meet the burden of proof beyond a reasonable doubt. That goes towards, they've got the burden. They've got the burden to tell you and to prove to you by preponderance of the evidence that he was justified in shooting. And as you heard what the 2 use of force experts say, that if in fact Casey did turn and level the gun, and you'll have the statement back there. Let's read how Mr. Meade describes it. He turned and raised and leveled the gun.
I need eye drops.
Now, if that happened, then he was justified. Both steps, Professor Stoughton and Mr. Scanlon both agree with that. And they both agree that if that didn't happen, if he did point the gun at him, it's not a reasonable. It wasn't an imminent threat, because it has to be an imminent threat of serious bodily harm or death. So let's put this back on track. Okay, he can go through all the evidence that we put into this case, but he has to prove his side of the case. What evidence was there that his side of the case is truthful? What evidence in the case is there that the gun was even pointed at him? Is only Mr. Meade.
Did I get another like?
So that's where you go and evaluate
For money?
his statement when you go back there and read it. So let's move to the intersection. And I kind of looked at this, said it's a good thing that about the video. Okay. There's this at the intersection of Carl and Ferris. Oh, it's a good thing they put in the video. That helps our case out. There's only one word in there, stop. Oh, that was some one word. Well, there's no evidence that he's changed it from stop to slow. You read his statement. That was Mr. Collins testifying in here. There's nothing in there, that statement. When did he make this change? When did he change his testimony? You'll have a statement. It says stop. You have no evidence before you that was changed to anything different other than counsel testifying here. Now, we do object. The judge allows it in because the judge knows and expects you guys to follow the law, that that's not evidence. That's not what you're to consider.
Ooh.
Mr. Collins wasn't under oath. Mr. Collins couldn't be cross-examined, just like his demonstration here. There were probably a lot of questions that everybody should have had during his demonstration as to whether or not it was going to be deceiving to you, how it was done, crouching, standing, or whatever. But we didn't have that opportunity because why? It's not evidence. He's not under oath. He can't take any questions from us. So I submit to you that you don't follow that type of stuff. You look at the evidence that's been presented from that witness stand and the evidence that's been submitted to you in court, duly evidence, and that's what you decide this case on.
All right, guys. Goal is 100 likes and 15 new subs in the next 2 hours
Back to 6 box shots in the back.
for my birthday,
Yeah, that's pretty significant. Okay.
or else $500.
That means that Dr. Shatmore said that they all went from back to front, right to left, and some of them slightly upward, and the other ones greatly sharp angles. Which
Go
he said
big or
was
go home.
consistent with that somebody could be falling forward. Do you have Rippy's photograph?
Yeah.
So let's talk about, Mr. Collins is trying to say that, hey, we don't know where he is in the house, but you do have duly submitted evidence, not Mr. Collins' evidence, not Mr. Collins' testimony, but we have evidence that was testified to by an officer. And you can see in this photograph here, actually, there's his sock, there's a hole in it. There's the other foot. And you can see kind of where he's placed there. You need Janae, so.
Why is he so slow?
So what we have, that's when Rippy came in. And if you look at the statement, and the statement is Mr. Meade's saying that he's the one that rolled him over. There's no evidence in here. I think Mr. Collins wants you guys to believe that he was pulled or changed or pulled into the house. He's trying to put him out in the entryway there. There's no evidence of that. Don't be misled by that stuff. You look at the evidence that we've submitted to you.
Gary.
This is what bothers them. This is what bothers them. Because they know their expert, I won't show you, remind you of his, their experts' opinions on the trajectories don't work. He doesn't even consider the 3 shots in the mid-back where, guess who was aiming? Mr. Meade in his statement says, I was aiming center mass. I was looking through my sight, the red dot sight, and it was placed center mass. He was shot center mass. One grouping of shots was center mass. The other grouping of shots, as Mr. Merkel had indicated, was lower. And you heard from Dr. Bauer and showed that. But let's look what else we have. Janae, and there's no evidence to refute Janae or Sharon. They both said Sharon meant how good a look she got, Janae, both of them are peering in when he was still on his stomach. He had not been rolled over. And they both said his hands were out. That bothers them.
Hi, Alex.
The trained observer, that's what they call him, the trained observer, never once puts in that statement as to where Casey Goodson's hands were. Not once. Not once put in that statement whether his hands were out or where they were.
What
So
no,
we have evidence.
Democrat?
We have evidence from Janae and from Sharon, uncontroverted. Janae has his up here. So she's getting somewhere here.
I'm not going to get
And if you look at Officer Rippy's, looks like his head is up towards that table. So I don't know what's trying to be fed to the jury, but I'm just trying to make sure that you guys don't get misled. And look, if I say something that you think might be off, go by your memories. Go by the evidence. You remember during the trial when we had a photograph up there of showing the distance of the 100 yards going all the way down the street, looking at Casey's from Sales to there? I don't know if you saw it, but Mr. Norder puts up there that photograph and it's zoomed in. You're all looking at it. It looks like it's closer. Mr. Merkel got up here and had to zoom it out for you. Use your common sense. Rely on the physical evidence because, as Mr. Merkel said, the physical evidence doesn't lie. Now they can Chris Korn. I mean,
Chris Korn. Why are you even mentioning him?
And you're going to see in the instructions, you can believe all, part, or none of a witness's testimony. You could say part of it. Yeah, I think some of it might be truthful. Some of it might not be truthful. But he was there. There's no question about it because we had his GPS. We had that he was there in the neighborhood Now, with the video from St. Matthias, we can see it was his van that was there. So there's no question. They aren't denying that he was there. What's kind of interesting is that, remember the van they just talked about, heating and cooling van. And he testified that once he went back into the neighborhood there, he's the one that pulled up close to try to see what was taking place. And it was after the fact. It was after the fact. If you remember the transcript of Sheila Sanford, who, as
How could we forget?
ordered into court, wouldn't come into court, so they had to read her testimony from a previous hearing. But in that report, she said, yeah, there's this heating and cooling truck. When we made the turn, there's this heating and cooling truck there. And you know, and I'd seen it there all day. And then there's the
I
question,
think about it.
well,
I've
what
seen it all
time
day.
Did you get back from the funeral? Oh, I don't remember. Well, we know this didn't occur at 11:30, but that's when she told the officer she was there at 11:30 home. This is the type of evidence they want you to rely on. And there's somebody that did hear what Officer Meade said. And that was Officer Ross. And he said what he heard, that he's a trained observer. Sheila Sanford is not. And you rely on your recollection whether you're going to believe Sheila Sanford. But Officer Ross.
Are you guys trained observers? Or did you get that certification? I mean, I'm not, so.
Who was his partner, they worked with for a long time, worked on so fast. He said in his testimony, I heard 2 times, show me your hands, show me your hands. He never heard drop the gun. And do you think if he heard drop the gun, you would have heard that? You think that they would have asked him? So they come in here and they bring a transcript in from Sheila Sanford, and that's what they're going to have you rely on, is this transcript of a lady that says she and her husband were making the corner, and they saw, I don't know, Casey running.
His next door neighbor?
When in Officer Mr. Meade's statement, he claims by the time he got down to the street that Casey was walking up to go through the gate. That makes no sense with Sanford. But that's what they want you to rely on. And by the way, what she said was, she didn't say drop the gun. Okay, or she didn't. So you listen and rely on your memories. Not sure, back to Chris Korn then. I think, he didn't want to be involved in this. And there's, even going through the voir dire process, there was a lot of people that didn't want to be involved in this. There's a lot of people that didn't want to be sitting on a case like this. He saw what he saw. He did come forward when he thought, what did he think? He did see something on TV,
Gotta be kidding me.
and he didn't feel that what was being portrayed was accurate. He felt that they were portraying Casey as a gun-wielding obstruction.
Overruled, closing argument.
That they considered him to be some crazy gun-wielding person. And all he says is, that's not what I saw. And in fact, what he said was, I didn't see a gun, but he came in here to just tell you what he did see. And if you look at the turn that Casey made, by the way, a continuous turn, unlike what he says, when he made the turn, as fast as he came around that corner, it's seconds going past Mr. Meade's truck. And immediately, as Korn's behind him, look how quick that. Korn would have probably seen something very similar as to what Jason Meade saw. Now, what did he see? He saw movement. Looked like he was singing. We've heard Janae, he loves those AirPods. He wears them all the time. Was he riding in the car with the AirPods? We do know from Detective Howe that they were continuously paired. He said they were continuously playing. And remember, I asked him the question. They were continuously playing, weren't they, Detective? Yes, in his analysis. You too. So Korn sees him moving. He says it's dancing. There was movement.
Collins was right. He's
Now, what
picking
he
and
saw-
choosing information.
Okay, because I guess he puts in a statement of what he saw. But let's look at that. Let's analyze that. Let's analyze that statement because you guys, Mr. Merkel went over it a little bit. all these things, when you get that statement, I want you to grab
Merkel
that
went
statement
over
and you start
nothing.
listing everything that he saw while Casey was stopped. Go to I think it's page 8 or 9. He says, he's 10 feet away from me. I have this great view, the trained observer. I have this great view. And while he's there, before he makes his turn, there's an approaching vehicle. This is in great details, ladies and gentlemen. This is not a minor mistake. This is somebody that's already done something 30 days earlier. This is somebody sitting there maybe trying to put together his statement that's all justification. That statement, you read it, it's all his justification as to what he did at that house when Casey was going in his door. Says Casey's there, palm down. That's pretty specific. Approaches, I guess he's driving with one hand. He's going to make the turn with one hand. Palm down. And you saw, I had Mr. Worley put the clip in. And, this extended clip, you're talking about exaggeration. It'd make you think that this was a clip, a banana clip of some sort. I guess they call them magazines. They go, how in the world could he have ever seen this if he didn't see it? As Mr. Merkel said, he saw it at the scene after he shot him. 30 days later, he writes the statement. But you saw what Mr. Worley did. I had him hold it like this, because if I'm making a turn past you, and if I'm pumping the thing, the butt of the gun pointing out the other direction of the car. And that's when he says he's radioing. There's a guy waving a gun out here. Now, we don't have those radio transmissions, unfortunately. He knows we don't have them because it's signal. The marshals use the encrypted channel. We don't have any access to that, and he knows that. He can say whatever he wants. I did this, I said this, I did this. But there was only one person that responded, and that was Youngless. But he said, oh, everybody heard it. But everybody heard it. Well, don't know. Don't really know what all other than what he claims in his statement, is whether or not you're going to believe him. So he's like, what's going on here? We know that that is not true. And had we not had that video, this evidence would have been presented to you that Casey was stopped there. That Casey did sit there and he saw all these actions and stuff, unlike what Chris Korn's shown. But he sat there and all this movement of the gun, making him a bigger threat. Because if you read in his statement, he goes, one of the reasons he pursued him was because he was a threat to me, and he was a threat to other motorists, leading up to the first step going towards his justification.
Okay, what do you guys think?
First step to show why he's pursuing.
Comment.
Oh, this is a big threat. I think it was one person, aggravated menacing, whatever. That's a misdemeanor. And they sat there and trying to say the other one, improper handling of firearm, that's not a violent offense. This all, Casey's pointing a gun over this. Now let's talk about the reasonableness, because it is reasonableness. How reasonable is he?
Yeah, I have a headache as well.
Sales and estates, he's got his backup. Rosser works with and Yorkowitz, so fast. They're all so fast. So he's got his team. When they do these entries, they're all together. They all make arrests together every day. They work with each other. They know each other. They plan with each other.
Oh my God, I didn't do
take
a
advantage
poll.
of that, and in his own words, speeds off. And I suspect you, had not Rosser and them be there, the story might be different. Because the story morphs when there's a witness around that maybe can contradict what he's saying. There was nobody at the intersection except him. But what he did say was, I looked down the street and I said, hey, there he is. There he is. And read that statement. It's strange, but read the statement. There he is. There he is. And Rosser sitting there saying, I have no idea what he's talking about, a guy with a gun. But he couldn't see a gun. He couldn't even tell what the guy looked like. He couldn't say what his clothing or anything. And by the way, in the statement, he gives no description of anything when the car passes by, but no description or anything. Doesn't see a gun. But that somehow just set him into motion, because now it looks like something has changed. Is it a field interview you're doing, or what are you doing? Are you upset about something? Are you just overly aggressive about something? And this is what you guys can look at, and you can make these determinations as to what was going on in his mind. Because that's what they want you to do. Look in his mind. See what his subjective intents were, what he knew or didn't know. And we talked about this in voir dire. How somebody reacts, how somebody acts. What
There
they
you go.
do.
Poll.
You can look and see and come up with it using common sense.
Get one going in the other
Not
stream as well.
speculation, but common sense. So all this training, and he takes off. He doesn't even do that so fast. They work together. Leaves the team behind. And he reads in there and says, I accelerated down the street. Over what did he see? He says in there was no running. Nothing had changed. There was no thing in his statement. Casey was threatening him, threatening anybody, pointing a gun, yelling. You remember Youngless when he said, oh, exigent circumstance. This is what I look for. If they're yelling, screaming, pointing a gun, or it's a combine thing, or there's a robbery or rape or something serious that we have to get there. We all understand that. You use common sense. Because remember, this is your call to make. Not Scanlon's and not Stoughton's. This is your call to make.
Councilman approach.
Oh. Okay. All right. Here's the other poll. Guys, this is serious. We're down to the wire. If you are on X, please make sure to retweet, comment, like. Damn it, Gary. I'm going to finish what I have to say. Oh my God. They're all looking at him. If you are on your phone watching on YouTube through the app, double tap your phone. If you don't see a big giant thumbs up, click the 3 dots up there in the up right hand corner, and you should automatically see my face and channel information. So double check that you are subscribed, that you like this stream, all that. And Facebook, yeah, do it. Pump the truck, do it. Pump the trunk, do it. Remember that?
Okay.
Oh, yeah.
I just want you all, I will agree with Mr. Collins on this. You make your decisions up as after you get back there and you start deliberating with each other. And you all converse with each other, check on each other's mind. You ask yourself, what is going on here? Is this even reasonable? Is this even what is going on? Did Casey even know anything? But I want to tell you this. He brings up the CCW, and if you remember what, Sharon, this picture, you can see it's something, a selfie young person uses. It's not pointed, it's pointed at the phone. And you can see off to the side, it's been cropped. You can see off the side because Sharon said, I think it was Destiny that was in the car with him, but they've sent you a cropped version of it, of this selfie. Cut her out. So
that they did.
She said, I was concerned about this case, having guns. But you know what? He had his carry concealed.
I think it's
I'm concerned being a young black man,
pop the trunk.
having a gun. What could happen? He goes, Grandma, don't worry.
Objection, Your Honor. Overruled, closing argument.
I know what to do if I get stopped by the police. Because I've got carry concealed. Put my hands up, I've got carry concealed, and I'm legal. Ladies and gentlemen, I just want you to, because we don't have enough time to go over everything. I'd love to address everything that he went through. But we have to split ours up to rebuttal and to address. But I ask you to rely on all your information, everything that you've got. Hold them to their burden. Don't let him shift that burden over onto us. This is their burden. This is them. If you go back there and you say, I don't know what happened, it's guilty. If you go back there and say, hey, Schroyer and Merkel didn't show me this, we don't have to.
What?
That's them.
The bell.
They present the evidence to you.
Where's
for
the bell?
justification. We put evidence in, but they're the ones to present the evidence to you for justification.
Did anyone else hear a bell?
Burden by his own statement, they met everything there. And I leave you with this. Ask yourself if this even makes sense. 12 o'clock in the afternoon, Friday, carrying a bag of subs. What was going on here? Casey's going inside to have lunch with his family, but first shoot an officer and then go in and sit down and eat lunch? Is that what was going on here?
Overruled, closing argument.
You think that that's what took place here?
Gary.
Go shoot a police officer and then go sit inside where my family was, where my baby D, who he knew was there, and then sit down at the table and eat lunch for everybody.
ladies and gentlemen, back to the jury instructions. Your initial conduct upon, it's the bottom of page 10 if you could. Your initial conduct upon entering the jury room is important. It is not wise to express immediately a determination to insist upon a certain verdict, because if your sense of pride is aroused, you may hesitate to change your position even if you later decide you were wrong. Consult with one another, consider each other's views, and deliberate with the objective of reaching an agreement. If you can do so without disturbing your individual judgment. Each of you must decide this case for yourself, but you should do so only after discussion and consideration of the case with your fellow
What the
jurors.
hell?
Do not hesitate to change an opinion if convinced that it is wrong. However, you should not surrender honest convictions in order to be congenial or to reach a verdict solely because of the opinion of other jurors. Before you can find the defendant guilty or not guilty, you must unanimously agree on your verdict. Tell anyone how you would vote on this case. We'll get you all the evidence and everything. And if you guys want to see,
Oh shit! He gets up out of his chair. Shoot! Sorry.
So if you want to see the ammunition, we'll take the guns out of the jury room and those kind of things. All right.
Meow meow meow. Let's go. Which reminds me, after I am finished, once I am finished with this stream, I am redirecting you guys somewhere fun and mystical, and a place that I think that you should be, especially considering their role with this channel. So, stay here, don't leave. Mostly because I think he gets yelled at. I need to use a tissue. Hold on a moment.
Guys don't have a seat. Did you need to put anything on the record? Okay.
Absolutely. Your Honor, at this point in time, there was a misstatement of the law by Mr. Schroyer. There couldn't be any blatant or opposite. In fact, when we went up there with Mr. Merkel, we indicated that you can't do what he was trying to do because it's a misstatement of the law. The law says they're not to consider any perspective of Casey Goodson. So when Mr. Schroyer gets up there and says, you got to ask yourself, why would someone go to Subway? Why would someone then shoot an officer and then go in and eat lunch? He is precluded from doing that. It's prosecutorial misconduct, and we have to ask for a mistrial. I don't know why they go there. They know, I think they know the law. You cannot speak to that. You cannot speak to what was in Casey Goodson's mind. They're precluded from it. That's the law. They've been in a trial like this before, and they didn't do it. They did it now. So I don't believe it's out of ignorance or they don't know it, but that cannot happen. What just happened there, Your Honor? We have to preserve the record for a mistrial.
Keeps happening.
It's a blatant misstatement of the law, no matter what angle you're coming from.
Your Honor, it's not a misstatement of the law, first of all. This case deals with credibility. This deals with the credibility of his statement and whether or not what he says in that statement is true. And what's the credibility is, did Casey Goodson ever turn and point the gun? You can't separate this out. Otherwise, what are we doing? He sits there and
What
says,
are we doing?
I didn't do it, and that's the only
What are we
thing
doing?
in the statement. His credibility of the statement is an issue, and they're allowed to sit there and whether or not I read the portion of the jury instructions, they're allowed to consider, okay, whether or not his statement, what he said there was true. We can test the veracity of that, and part of it is whether or not it makes common sense with statement, and whether or not and the jury's allowed to sit there and look at things like that. So
one person at a time.
Oof.
I apologize. Are you through? Okay. Yeah, I have no disagreement with what he just said. But that's not the law. There is no law on credibility. There's a law called justification. And in the jury instructions, Your Honor, it outlines exactly what you can and cannot do. And it precludes you from making an analysis and an argument about what was the intent or Can I finish, Tim? What the intent of, Your Honor?
I mean, I don't understand what you guys don't understand. One person speaks at a time.
I understand, but he's addressing me for some reason, like I'm going to rule on it. I don't know.
Come on. Anything else?
It's a direct violation of the law.
All right.
We disagree, Your Honor.
Okay. I'm not declaring a mistrial. All right.
Hey, Megan, everyone has our phone numbers, right? Thank you so much. Hey, Mike, thank you so much. Harmon, thank you.
Music always friggin' scares the crap out of me. Oh, stop that. And all the footage from after this was just like verdict watch. So I want to say last trial, because remember, this is a retrial right now. The first trial that we had, it was 3 days before they knew that they had a deadlocked jury. But based on what we saw from the lead prosecutor, Mr. Merkel's uh defense, or I'm sorry, closing statement earlier, I'm genuinely, I'm not putting on theatrics when I say this, or when my expressions, because I've never, ever, ever seen a prosecutor just like, here you go, decide it amongst yourselves. It genuinely seems like he just has given up. He knows what's going on. He knows that it's going to go the other way. Otherwise, he would have, like, in my sole opinion, he would have provided more context behind his argument. Or else maybe he wasn't feeling well. I don't know. And wanted Gary to be the pit bull that he is and come in at the end. I don't know. But every single trial, these two lawyers go at it like cats and dogs. Like cats and freaking dogs. So, speaking of which, it's about to get really loud in here. I did want to name a few people that have been very supportive. Hold on, that have been really supportive of what I'm going through. Sorry, my dog's deaf. He doesn't realize that we're all telling him to be quiet. Hold on. Okay. So I think I'm going to save that for tomorrow, because there have been some people that have been extremely supportive behind the scenes. And one of those people, I'll tell you right now, is J7. She has been a tremendous friend to me through this. And here, that's a good idea. Thanks, Scott. She is going to be here on Wednesday, a week from today, while I am having my operation. And she's going to be running the show. I don't want to know what kind of show. I just said, as long as it doesn't involve you needing me, it's all yours. Or me getting kicked off YouTube, because that would also be a nada. But I think that you guys are going to enjoy it. And then I have reached out to a few content creators who I think would be fun and a change from the normal, to come on and do a show for an hour and a half. If you are a content creator who I haven't reached out to that would like to do this, it's probably because I think you're going to say no. So please feel free to reach out to me, and I can work with you on getting a certain day set up. But I think it's going to be very low stress, fun, a different pace than what you guys normally see over here. So it'll be fun to merge some audiences and put you guys in front of a different group of people. And yeah, like I did earlier, if you missed it, I went through the Give, Send, Go people who have donated. And I also went through some of the YouTube people that have donated. But I am going to go back over some of those Facebook people tomorrow. So Facebook and X. And with that being said, next time you see me tomorrow, I think that we'll probably have a verdict. And as long as we get a verdict, if we get a verdict before noon, y'all most likely won't see me. So it's important to turn on your notifications in case I do go live after 12, but before my normal 3:45. So turn on those notifications and you will be alerted as to when I pop up. Sorry for the noise in the background. It's difficult to deal with that. Okay. So,
I'm done.
okay. So, with that being said, if you turn on your notifications, it'll just be a much smoother process to find out when I'm going live. And as long as it's after 12 o'clock, then I intend on doing this live, which also takes a lot of time because we aren't given a heads up. Yes, Ray. So good to see you again. We aren't given much of a heads up when there is a verdict. The girl who works for the news station, I'm sorry. The girl from that works at the news station, she asked the clerk today if there was like a system that they could find out and notify TV and media and et cetera, et cetera. Nah, they ain't having it. So that's where we're at. And thank you to all my mods who showed up tonight. Thank you, Mitchell. Thank you, Zach. And anyone else. Thank you to the members. The members are a great community of people who enjoy this content. And I couldn't do it without you guys. So tomorrow we'll do a little something for my birthday. I don't know what. I could say, or do I, but I don't. So we'll have fun. Stay, when I log off of here, I am sending you somewhere else. And I think that you'll like this place. Let me know tomorrow. Okay, guys, I hope you have a lovely evening. See you soon. Bye-bye.